Good evening. Welcome to the December meeting, December 2021 meeting of the Historic Conservation Commission. You'll forgive me for an ad lib opening to the meeting. There's a script that we follow that tells you that we're volunteers, that we care about our city, and that there are guidelines for us that come from the Secretary of Interior, the standards for historic conservation, and from our own city ordinance, which details the elements we must consider. Our board is represented with building inspector, business owner, residents, and real estate broker. The way this will work is that we'll take the items in the agenda as they were submitted. We'll have a presentation from our historic officer detailing the project at hand. We'll then have an opportunity for the applicants to offer more detail or any clarifications necessary. There'll be then discussion, and we'll take a vote. There will be also an opportunity for any public comment if there are people here in attendance who would like to make that speech. We like to keep that limited to about 3 to 5 minutes, and always to remember to be civil in the process. With that, we'll begin. First one being 305 East 3rd Street. Formerly, it was 307 East 3rd Street in a prior application, and we'll go from there. Jeff?
We could just ask all the participants to sign in on the sign-in sheet when you arrive at the table, please. Thank you. That's for minutes purposes. The property location, as Mr. Evans stated, is now given as 305 East 3rd Street. Craig pointed out the previous COA had the address of 307 East 3rd Street. The applicant had submitted 307 last time, and we currently have materials that indicate both street numbers. So the planning office has decided 305, I'm assuming, upon recommendation of the applicant and moving forward. Building description, period style, and defining features. Upon motion by HCC, the Historic Conservation Commission, a certificate of appropriateness was previously issued to the applicant by Bethlehem City Council for constructing a new 5-story building at the current location of a surface parking lot with 10 mature trees. The structure will be mixed use, including retail space on the first floor and 1- and 2-bedroom apartments on the entry level and upper floor levels. Proposed alterations, the applicant is returning from the August 30th, 2021 HCC meeting with revisions and responses to HCC comments. For my assessment, I utilized the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 concerning new additions and related new construction, the Bethlehem Ordinance that created the Historic Conservation District, the Historic Conservation District Design Guidelines concerning new construction, as well as the Conservation Commission guidelines for storefronts. My evaluation. During the HCC meeting on August the 30th, 2021, the applicant presented a proposal to replace the existing surface parking lot and 10 mature trees with a new detached 5-story mixed-use masonry structure with a flat roof. Following extensive discussion and against the recommendation of the historic officer, mainly due to the inappropriate height of the design proposal, in my opinion, the HCC, upon motion by Mr. Simonson and seconded by Mr. Evans, adopted a proposal that City Council issue a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed new building with the following details. So I'm just going to go through the different elements of the resolution. The south facade, which faces East 3rd Street, measures approximately 108 feet wide. The west facade facing Taylor Street measures approximately 128 feet wide. The overall building height measures approximately 58 feet. That excludes any potential mechanical penthouses, etc. There's an inner courtyard that's accessed from walkways leading along the east facade and is adjacent to the existing 3-story mixed-use building. The proposed structure includes approximately 2,000 square feet of commercial space at the entry level, and that's at the corner location at East 3rd Street and Taylor Street, as well as 44 1- and 2-bedroom apartments at the remaining entry level and upper floor levels. At the entry level, there is a chamfered condition at the southwest corner facade that accommodates the required site triangle. The structure does not include any below-grade basement or cellar level or on-site parking spaces. Though conceived as one structure, the overall building mass shifts in materiality at the lowest 4 floor levels, with differing materials and colors to appear as a series of row houses. The 4th floor level terminates in an upper ornamental cornice, while the 5th floor level is delineated differently from the lower floors and requires further development. Again, that's in the resolution that was passed. Defining architectural features include traditionally inspired storefronts at the street level along the East 3rd Street and around the corner along Taylor Street, as well as double hung windows, casement windows, Juliet balconies, as well as cast sills and lintels at the remaining facades, along with ornamental cornices at the lower sign band and above the 4th floor level before rising another full story. So those were the components of the previous resolution. The motion for the proposed work was approved 5-1, with Mr. Lader not supporting the motion. He noted the proposed building height was inappropriate due to the negative impact of a 5-story building on the existing streetscape. I won't go into all the details, but it cited various Secretary of Interior standards and design guidelines against the proposed height. The current Certificate of Appropriateness application responds to the HCC request that was integrated into the motion for more details about proposed window and door types, cast sills and lintels, along with cornice profiles and facade materials, as well as a revised design for the 5th floor level. The applicant was encouraged to reference the guidelines for storefronts before finalizing the details of the proposed storefronts. Similarly, the applicant was encouraged to reference guidelines for signage to conceive an overall building signage concept to avoid future tenants from approaching HCC with individual sign proposals. Envision exterior lighting fixtures as well as privacy and security fencing and gates leading from the public sidewalk to the inner courtyard would also necessitate subsequent HCC review. The current supplemental drawings, the architectural narrative, as well as the project architect's cover letter begin to address such details requested by HCC. The applicant notes that the south facade facing 3rd Street reads as 4 separate structures due to the use of differing materials and colors at the 2nd through 4th floor levels. So that still remains from the previous resolution. They've just modified and clarified a few things. The entry level has storefront systems with recessed entries, display windows with cast stone and brick masonry skirts, along with transoms, while the floor levels above feature double-hung windows along with multi-light French doors and Juliet balconies. The applicant appropriately confirms that that no glazing will be reflective, colored, or tinted. The proposed entry-level storefronts are appropriate, pending clarification about the materials, finishes, and basic dimensions. So we did make some recommendations last time. They took those into account. They're depicted, but typically we would see some kind of material information, whether it be actual samples or specifications, something of that nature. The sign band with integrated gooseneck lighting fixtures, they did produce a specification of the proposed lighting fixture with angled reflectors in gloss black color and with 3000 Kelvin LED color temperature is appropriate. We typically have, however, in our minutes or the resolution, the dimensions of the sign band. So if you have that on hand, that would be helpful just for us to understand, the dimension because later they're going to be actual signs, and we'll need to compare the signs compared to the dimension of the sign band. And also, in reference to the lighting, we want to make sure, and it'll be placed in the resolution, that there are no visible conduits, raceways, or junction boxes that service the illumination. They have to all be interior, not exterior. The facade treatments of the second through the fourth floor levels include cast stone veneer, and the applicant confirms the color rendition is not bright white, and it seems as if they're prepared to submit product samples. The previous discussion included concern that the proposed material seemed like a bright white, which would be considered inappropriate in the district. It also includes brick veneer in a dark red color and brick veneer in a medium red-orange color. Now, we do have color renditions and color printouts, but typically, for the record, we usually indicate the fabricator, the series or style, those kind of things to go into the motion. Sometimes the commission requests that pre-approved pending final submittal and review either by the full commission or by select members. The windows have expressed sills and lintels, which are appropriate, pending clarification about the materials, the profiles, and dimensions. So we see them in the drawings, but I couldn't find any indication of necessarily what they'll be or what size we're talking about. The divided light windows are appropriate, pending confirmation they're true divided or simulated divided lights, meaning the divisions are not sandwiched between the inner and outer glazing. So we don't accept sandwiched muttons. They have to be either true divided sash or they need to be surface applied on the exterior. There's also, I couldn't find clarification about the intended materials, dimensions, etc. of the windows, and perhaps there's some specifications coming or a sample. Juliet balconies are indicated with aluminum railings. We have seen and approved Juliet balconies, but aluminum is not appropriate. It's indicated in the guidelines as inappropriate, so iron railings is the preference for any kind of railings in the district. The window configurations in the building sections with dark red brick have been revised since the previous design, and in my opinion are no longer appropriate. They used to be individual windows all of the same size and all of the same spacing dimension, and now in the darker red, those have been changed to gangs of double windows, and we don't accept gangs of windows unless they have a hefty mullion between them. So we reviewed and deemed appropriate previously, and this is a change from the last design proposal. Similarly, the windows are no longer consistent in size. Some of them are smaller and some of them are bigger. And the previous design, which was approved, they were all consistent of the same size. Typically, when you have row houses, unless the window was, say, illuminating a stair or a utility room or something, it would be uniform in size as well as spacing. And I think it's the darkest red sections, those two sections, that's been changed. The fourth floor level is capped with a profiled cornice, with end units also receiving decorative support brackets. Cornice details are appropriate, pending clarification about the intended materials, profiles, and dimensions. Oftentimes, we'll even get a product sample of that to take a look at. I just couldn't find any indication of, what they would be, and perhaps that's intended for future. You're just showing us your idea of a cornice, and then we can talk about it. The west facade facing Taylor Street shares similar details with the south facade, as does the north facade facing Columbia Street, which also includes the far left facade has fiber cement siding. So only on the one facade do we see a new material from last time, and that would be fiber cement siding. Pending successful review of various details at the south facade, the remaining facades are also appropriate because they share the similar details. However, just please note that we do allow fiber cement siding that's listed in our guidelines. We just want to make sure it's smooth surface, so no implied wood graining or anything like that. It needs to be smooth surface or other textures. And we need to see a 7-inch exposure. So not a contemporary 3 or 5-inch exposure, but a more historically appropriate 7-inch exposure. The drawings are so small, I couldn't put a scale to it to see exactly what the exposure would be. And the color is indicated in a light color. We just want to make sure that's not a bright white. The provided drawings also indicate aluminum gutters and downspouts. HCC doesn't officially assess gutters and downspouts, but we recommend. And our recommendation is to stay away from aluminum and we prefer copper. They also should be half round. No matter what material, they need to be half round. Gutters and full round profiles in the downspouts. From the drawing, it's just a simple line, so it's hard for me to understand the profiles. Previous certificate of appropriateness also required the applicant to further develop the uppermost 5th floor level, potentially as a true mansard roof. In that case, it would include 2 roof exposures. It would have a steep roof segment and then a shallow upper roof segment. That's what a true mansard does. Or they were offered the option of considering setting back the entire floor level 12 feet from the lower walls. The current submittal indicates no revisions to the upper floor level from the previous design proposal. So in the resolution, you challenge the applicant to revisit the 5th floor, either redesigning it as a true mansard or coming up with a different design solution. And they're coming back to you with the same design that we had at the last meeting. Aside from the private terrace for the unit at the southwest corner and the terrace for common use at the southeast corner, the remaining 5th floor level does not set back from the walls below, and a true mansard roof construction is not being proposed. To help the building read as a mansard roof, and that's taken from the description, read, the applicant proposes fiber cement sheathing in a scallop pattern in a dark gray color. There's one supplemental computer-generated rendering that also depicts a, quote, alternate facade treatment for the uppermost floor level. However, I couldn't find any labels. I couldn't determine what their alternative would be. The scallop design is taken away, and it seems to be a lighter color. But beyond that, there's no indication of what the alternative proposal would be. In my opinion, the appropriateness of the 5th floor level remains still open and warrants further discussion. There is an implied privacy or security fence in the gate leading from the public sidewalks to the inner courtyard. However, they're not currently really detailed, so that would necessitate perhaps a future HCC review. The applicant also offers a very different design approach for the south facade. I don't know if they're numbered, but it was drawing sheet 4 of 19 in my set. It has a series of fiber cement panels and brick veneer cladding, along with non-traditional window openings and individual balconies with metal panel railings at the upper floor levels. And in this case, the 5th floor level is not delineated different from the other floor levels. It's not referenced in the cover letter, and it's just the one sheet, so I wasn't quite sure. I'm assuming perhaps they might want to talk to us about it, but I wasn't quite sure how to assess that drawing sheet because, in my opinion, it's a completely different project proposal. And so much of it would discount what was previously approved by City Council based on your recommendation. So if the applicant is wanting an assessment of this kind of new approach, in my opinion, I don't want to waste anyone's time on everything else. We probably just need to kind of start all over. But that's a completely different project, in my opinion. And I didn't really take time to assess it beyond how I just described it to you. So with that, I'll conclude my initial assessment. And I'll welcome our chair to the meeting as well.
Thank you. Sorry for being a little bit confused on the start time. It's working. Okay, am I taking over? Okay. All right. Hi, evening. Would either of you like to address any of Jeffrey's comments?
Sure. Once again, good evening. Good to see everybody. Happy New Year. Thank you for the opportunity to present before the Historic Commission. I'm John Callahan, Director of Development for Prawn Development. This is a prawn development project. Um, this is a project that's not unfamiliar to the group. It has not changed significantly. There have been some, I guess I would say, alternative options that we have tried to render in perhaps in response to questions or concerns that the board may have to help visualize what something else might look like. And because we obviously put a lot of thought into the first round of images and renderings that we presented to you the first time. So if there are alternatives and different options, we wanted to sort of have a few kind of in our instead of us trying to imagine what that might look like, we've tried to sort of present or come up with some anticipate some potential objections or modifications. If it's okay, I'm going to turn it over to Carlos Tovar. So I can't say Carlos started out with us working for USA Architects. He now has since ventured out on his own, and he is now with a different firm and on his own. And that is, what is the name of this firm again? It's too Latino for me to get right.
Diseño Urbano.
Yes. Okay. So he is with Diseño Urbano. And also we have Paul Schwartz from USA Architects, the original firm. But we wanted to have Carlos here because for some continuity's sake, since he was here presenting the first time to this board. So with that, I'll turn it over to
Excellent. If that is possible, that we can look at the drawings that we sent. I do have here I do have the presentation here, and maybe we can all go back and forth and look.
Try. I don't know what kind of computer capabilities I have with the YouTube feed now. Are they any different than the drawings that you guys submitted?
No, it's
You don't
everything.
have copies of these.
You do have copy
Yes,
there?
yeah.
Okay, excellent. So we can review that. So again, one of the changes, and I'm not sure if when you say different, we submit few alternates facades, and they were because in response, for example, I'm gonna go straight to, if we look, let's stay with the south of elevation on 3rd Street. We have an alternate elevation. That will be,
so it'd be the alternate elevation after the next slide after proposed. The alternate elevation.
no, that's
What are they numbers?
South elevation here.
15 of 19.
correct. 15 of 19,
Elevation.
16, 115.
15 of 19.
Correct. Yeah.
So after proposed elevation and before proposed views.
Proposed view.
So this one, alternate elevation here.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. So that's the only elevation that I can see it was different than before. One of the things that we did with this elevation, as you can see, the siding, the cement board siding, what that's trying to do is delineate the different material, because that was the stair, the proposed stair. And one of the comments that we received, if it will be good if we can if we can actually represent that chain of material on that stair on the facade, since it's no use for it's not a residential use in that area. I mean, when I talk about residential, I talk about it's not a living room or it's not a bedroom. And we change the material, as you can see, you can see the impact they have on the facade. We really look at the original design. There was everything as a row home, switching from the dark red to the light red to the custom. So that was something that we did. And also on the comment on regards.
If you remember back to our meeting in August, there was some discussion about activity inside the building, not necessarily matching the exterior facade, and that stairwell perhaps would be better served called out as a stairwell. So that was,
Right.
so as I said, that is our attempt to sort of show the board what that would look like. And in our opinion, it's sort of, it's less favorable to what we had presented initially, because it kind of makes that sort of row home to the right even narrower and not read like a row home. And it's sort of counter to what we were attempting to do, which is take a larger scale building and introduce some verticality and some rhythm to it, and not have a stairwell kind of called out, because it sort of defeated, in our opinion, the purpose of what we were trying to achieve. So that is why that was there, to sort of offer you an example of if we did call that out as a stairwell, the impact that it would have on that south facing elevation. That was the purpose of providing that particular rendering.
You were showing us a less attractive choice, in your opinion.
Yes, we're just trying to visualize what the impact to the south elevation would be if we called the stairwell out as its own
Right.
entity.
And
Yes, as offering a less attractive choice, in our opinion.
The top floor is different in that,
That's correct. That's the Manson roof, because again, we have the illusion with the chain of material of the chain of material. They look like a mansard, but that's, of course, that's not the case. It's not truly a mansard. So we change the material so you can actually see the difference. Now you start reading like a full fifth story story.
So we're not proposing that. That's in response to some of the comments we got in August about, we indicated that it would be very hard for us.
we appreciate the
Yes.
clarification.
Right. So again, and that's and one of the comments, one of the feedback was that we did not take any action on the Manson roof. This is how we respond to that. That we take it very serious on the previous meeting, and then we went back to the drawing board and see what else we could do. So we changed the material, and it's just not working.
Well, I don't think anyone was necessarily objecting to the material of the roof. I think it was more that, it looks like it should be a mansard, and yet it's, detailed, the material of it and the location of the building, and yet, it's treated more like wall construction. And so, I mean, I think it's, certainly a nice use of material. I guess I was one of the ones hoping that maybe you'd come back and make it look more like a mansard. And
Right.
I understood that, there's some, some challenges. You're trying to keep a consistent wall system. I still do feel that there's probably a way you could make it, read more like a mansard. Which I think would really help the scale and the height of the building fit more in with, the typical 3-story buildings along that street. Otherwise, I think it's well done. The scale of the windows is great.
Correct, and that's one of the things. So we when we start looking again of course the constraints that we have, the footprint of the building is not a large enough footprint. This is a building that we have to provide 2 stairs. This is a building that we have to provide an elevator. This is a building that in every floor we need a mechanical room. So we are taking off of the square footage of the area. So having a true Manson roof is gonna ending minimizing the square footage of the upper floor, which it will be a reduction on the program. So this is why when we start looking at the project from day one, we say, okay, what we can do differently, or how we can read that differently, and this is why we came out with the other material to give you an idea of how a building it could read. And also, if you look at actually we take the time. If you look at the last sheet, actually that's not the last sheet. I'm sorry, it's the before the last sheet.
Street views. The
Street
last
views.
sheet that reads street views as a heading.
Street views. So what we did there.
I mean,
yeah, go
as
ahead,
we
John.
talked about, I'm sorry, Carlos. I don't
Go
mean,
ahead, yeah,
is
sure.
it, so at the last meeting, we discussed sort of what the current height limit in this area is it 120, 125 feet, I think is the,
The zoning height limit.
yes,
Well, it's probably, I think it's 150.
150.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and my understanding is that the city's looking at sort of lowering that and reducing it to something different, and that the current thinking for this area is going to be 60 feet. And this building is 58. So even with the upper floor being 5 stories, it's still below what the city's proposed new height limit would be for this area. So, so whether this is a mansard reading as a mansard roof or just a conventional 5th floor, we're below what the city's proposed height limit is. So with that in mind, we're trying to sort of do above and beyond that, right? And so by setting back most of that upper 5th floor, some 3.5 feet or 16 feet, there is a section that does sort of still present out as a 5th story building, but that's kind of where the mansard came in. Is it'll feel like a 4-story building with a roof on it.
Right.
And that, but between the combination of the setbacks and the mansard, trying to make the building read as a 4-story, even though 5 stories is allowed. We're just trying to sort of even soften it further than what the proposed height limit would be in the future. So that was our rationale. Whether, you know, that was our attempt. Whether we executed well or not is obviously for the board to determine. But just to give you some insight as to what we were thinking. So, but so to Carlos's point, then is the reason why we sort of showed this sort of facade from, or what the view would be walking down 3rd Street, is that for the most part, this building will present, if you're on, because, you know, we always show these kind of sort of, you know, far away renderings, but the reality is nobody ever views the building from that perspective. It's always kind of from the street level. So the hope by giving you that perspective was this, so you kind of give a sense of what that building will feel like if you're walking down the front of that building on 3rd Street. That's kind of our goal there.
The other thing that happens here, while zoning has 150 feet as a limit, and the city is looking at perhaps some other number as a limit, we're still charged with the subjective view of whether or not the building fits
Understood.
in the historic district, and that doesn't have a specific number to it. So it's our collective judgment that enters into that, and that's part of where this discussion is going. It's not that we reject your attempt at going above and beyond. We don't do that, but we have to consider it in terms of its historic context, as well as whether the zoning part of it is beyond our particular aegis.
No, I understand, and we can sort of talk again about the massing, but we didn't spend. That was sort of the last meeting's discussion. So to some degree, I know the 5th floor is still a point of discussion, which is what we're having right now. But in terms of the massing and the agreement on the scale of the building, we're sort of there already. So.
I'm not challenging that. I'm just pointing out that we're not totally controlled by whether it's 150 feet or 60 feet or 90 feet or 75 feet. You know, we can't exceed limits when they exist, but we have a different viewpoint that we have to bring to it.
Understood.
Can I ask another question about the building construction itself? What type of construction is this? Is it all proposed to be wood frame?
Yes, it's a wood frame. It's a 3B construction. 3B construction. So it's gonna
Okay.
be all wood frame. The whole
So-
building is wood frame.
So the outside walls are wood frame as well.
Correct.
Okay, so it seems like it should be very doable to do that upper floor so that it looks more like a mansard. I mean, what would really be fantastic is if the part that looks like it should be roof sloped back and those windows stood exactly where they were. You know what I mean? So
Essentially
you-
dormers.
yeah, those windows would become like dormers. They stay where they are, and that whole roof-looking part slopes back to
Finishes the
look
trusses.
like a mansard.
Correct. So one of the things that we have in the building is we have trusses going from one side to the other side. So when I started sloping the wall on the front, now that trusses needs to change. When you do the true mansard, you have to like pretty much frame that portion of the building. And that's something that we look at it when the structural engineer, and also that's what I was saying, the square footage issue that we have there.
Yeah.
And again, the construction type, this building is already 5 stories in wood construction. We're trying to eliminate the use of steel on the building. So it creates more of the challenge. If it will be a shorter building, then you can do things
Yeah,
a little bit different.
I know it's sometimes hard to do all these things, but you know, it would just really, somehow I look at that vertical fifth floor, and boy, it just looks funny right now. It looks like it's almost there. It looks, there's so many things about this building that just look great, and that one thing is just a little bit irksome.
So I guess our point would be then that if trying to read as mansard is in some way offensive, or like that we're not quite there, and it's better off not to do it at all, then
I'm
we
not
could.
saying that.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, I'm suggesting that if that's not working, like building this as true mansard, and the board is not in agreement of using that material to sort of have it read as mansard, yet not true, then we could go back to sort of the other proposal and just have that sort of more conventional flat roof fifth floor, if that's more agreeable to the board. Like, in other words, don't create the illusion. Let's just be what we are.
Mhm. And what material is that proposed to be on the alternate elevation?
That would be a hardy board or cementitious siding, panelized siding.
Yeah. Mhm.
Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's the correct. Yeah.
I don't want to get too far over my skis here.
No, you are doing a great job.
And what happens if we just do, say, a 5-foot setback of that top floor and keep everything else the same?
I think that's where we want to go, to that upper floor plan. Well, and that's kind of what we were hoping to show by the sidewalk view that we were just discussing, is that for the most part, the way that fifth floor would look from 3rd Street, it would, even with a 3.5-foot setback, it kind of does, because of the
Correct.
the
The corners.
cornice. You're not going to see it, whether it's and that's where, again, the mansard sort of helps. But and I want to sort of go backwards on that debate, but the reason why it's not as simple as that, we do think it goes a long way to, for the most part, making the building feel more like a 4-story building from the street than a 5-story building with the setbacks that exist. But the reason why the challenge with that middle section, I think if we go to the floor plan on the 5th floor.
One of the challenges that we had the stair there too.
Yeah, the
Which
stair has
is-
to be out.
So outside,
So that, no matter what we do, the stair is going to be kind of where it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you were able to give a terrace to one apartment. If you did a bit of a setback, you'd be able to give a terrace to all those upper floor apartments. And I'm sure, you'd be doing a lot of great things for the scale of the building, I think, and providing another amenity for those upper floor apartments.
Correct. So if we look at image, that's slide number 10, which is the 5th floor, the
So it's
fifth floor.
it's the apartment layouts of the 5th floor.
Okay, I'm on it.
Okay.
There you can see the impact that will have the 1-bedroom apartment. It will reduce the living room and the bedroom, and also the 2-bedroom apartment will lose the 2nd bedroom. And again, having the setback, when we start thinking about the roof terrace, when we did the setback, it created this small space. So we did the amenity room up there just to capture that space. And then we did as much as we could on the second floor of the of the 2-bedroom units. Sorry, on the corner unit, we set it back about 5 feet, about 5 feet. And then we set back a little bit, that blue bedroom, that's was set back 2 feet. And again, what we're trying to do when the corners that you can see on the facade, this is what we show the view, the street view, is that you see the corners stick out almost 2 feet. They actually help you to break that. And that's the intent.
So, I think I'm understanding some of what you're saying, and, okay, I get the point. Hey, we do the setback, and, we lose some of these bedrooms, and it causes all kinds of chaos, and yet somehow the one corner unit, you were able to make it work. And of course, I'm wondering, well, gosh, why can't you just make it work everywhere else? Or
Well,
at
it's
least,
not-
I'll offer this. How about just along the 3rd Street side? And if it wrapped the corner, like, why wouldn't you just mirror what you have on the terrace side to the other side of the building? And sorry to be a stinker about this, I just feel strongly it would really help the scale and the massing of the building.
Yes, eliminate the bedroom.
I mean, it's I don't think it's as simple as what happened on the corner can happen in the middle, because if you look at where the corner 2-bedroom unit starts, it's offset. It's because of the way the configuration of the hallway, it's easier to set that unit back. The 1-bedroom unit starts 6 feet closer to the street. So if you try to do the same thing with that 1-bedroom unit, it's going to severely compromise that unit. And the stairwell is still going to be out on the street anyway. So it's what are you gaining?
Well, again, I mean, I think the main thing we're trying
Just,
to do
it's just not as simple though to say do what you did at the 2-bedroom with the 1-bedroom, because the 2-bedroom starts in a different spot than the 1-bedroom does. It starts 6 feet further down the.
Yep, I know. Okay, so, I mean, I think I've said enough. I think ultimately, us as a commission, we just have to decide how important, this detail is in terms of, I think we want to maintain, I think one of our charges is to maintain a certain scale and massing consistency through the district. So, we could drill down on this all night long, but, I think it'd be good for other commission members to also weigh in on this.
Do you have materials that you wanted to show us? I see you have the white cast, or the white stone on
Yes.
the edge.
We did bring. This is a.
Any excuse me, any numbers or any identification markers for the colors of the veneer?
Yes, no physical samples. We have that custom because that was the call out. But if you look at the plans on the drawing, on the facade, on the elevations, not on the render elevations, the 2D elevation, there is a exterior material legend that tell you the company name, tell you the color, the sizes.
Okay.
So the renders don't call out for the materials, but the 2D elevations, they do call out. And then we have at the end, we have a 3D render. They call out for those materials, but the elevation is better because the elevation have a big shadow in every single material, the 2-dimensional elevation.
So there's this view that calls out individual surface of materials, and then as Carlos said, there's the chart itself that is more specific.
Okay.
This one. Correct.
That's correct.
But of this at your feet, Mr. Callahan, that's the one sample that's here tonight?
Yeah, because that was of concern, the whiteness of that corner. We thought it would be good to bring that one in so you could get a view, because sometimes the printed material doesn't do the justice of what the actual material looks like. So this is what it's not white. It's more of that's the color of
That's a typical concern of ours, to have something that's slightly less than bright white.
right.
Right.
It lasts, it looks clean longer.
Correct.
Yes. So I don't know if you want to get closer.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a more, just throw it out.
I can handle it.
But that'll be the material on the corner.
Sturdy.
Yeah.
Just sturdy material.
Yeah,
It sure
correct.
is. And not inexpensive.
Right.
Is it a precast? Is that what it is?
Yes, precast.
Careful.
We have a similar material in Easton at the Seville project with Peron Development. And it's a challenge to use it
Yeah,
just because the weight.
and that would only be at either corner?
Correct, at the corner. That's correct, sir.
Is the cornice piece, is that the same as that or no?
No, the corner piece is different. It's going to be the A-sake.
Are there other colors of the fish scale siding for that could be on the top floor? Was that your choice, or
It's similar.
most like roofing, or
Correct. I'm not sure if you see like different color. That's the question. It's just because the render, if you are farther, is lighter and closer is darker. That's what it is. But we're not trying to change the color throughout the building.
So I'm sorry. Are you asking, can we change the color, or are you saying is that color meant to read variable in the way that it sort of shows there?
I'm asking if there were other colors, this was your choice based on what you wanted to achieve on that at that level.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
But there are certainly other choices.
I like the gray. I think it's more reminiscent of the roof on some of the other buildings.
To follow up on what you just said, that is the same color. It's just the shadow casted on there.
Yes.
So, okay.
I just
all
wanted,
right,
I wasn't sure which question
Yeah,
he was asking.
Yeah, that made me think of that. Okay.
But yes, it'll be a consistent color. It won't be a variable color.
Voting on it again, and then let's vote.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, all right, so I think we need to, render a decision on if, I think the roof is one thing, one item. Jeffrey mentioned there's a window item we hadn't really talked about yet. Jeffrey mentioned the treatment of the window on the west elevation and south elevation. We have like two windows ganged together that are a different dimension. I think that's one of the things you brought up, right, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I'm just pointing out differences. Previously, the windows were all uniform in size and separation. And in what I'm calling the dark red sections, I'm looking on just the main facade now facing East 3rd Street. We now have gangs, which we typically don't accept gangs. If they're double windows, they need to be divided by a true mullion, a really thick, heavy division, not just a window on a window. We did not see this type of window last time, so it's a significant departure from what you saw last time. And also the departure is the gangs of windows within each section are different dimensions. Previously, they were all the same dimension, and now two pairs of windows on the same floor level are of different sizes, and that's definitely not typical for the district.
All right, so I guess maybe one question is, can they make, the windows that are ganged together, can they make it a more traditional, I guess, mullion between them?
Bedroom and there's a living room.
Yeah, if they're prepared to do a true mullion, absolutely, and maybe it's there, it just doesn't read.
Okay,
That's why I asked for clarification. I didn't outright object to it. I said it requires clarification. Different sizing, however, in my opinion, is
right.
unusual.
Right.
Yeah,
And just, I wanted to make clear to HCC, this is a departure from what you saw last time. I don't know if it's immediately obvious.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you are you clear on what Jeffrey's talking about?
I'm not really clear because maybe the way how the render show, but the double windows, there is actually a mullion on the center, and we have a thicker mullion on the center. But we can look that in detail. It's probably the way how the render came out, but yeah, we have the vertical member on the center.
I think on the there's this one unit on, I don't know what it's like a narrower windows are gang together, and I'm just wondering in response to what Jeffrey is talking about, should you just make that one window?
That's a good recommendation, yes, because that's in the living room, in the bedroom. It's too skinny, yeah.
So again, I know. All right, so I don't know. I think we probably covered enough on this
Correct.
project.
Those skinny ones we can single like these guys. These guys, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
I move that we recommend a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 305 3rd Street, East 3rd, for the top floor configuration as proposed, with the half round or fish scale hardy siding material as proposed, and that there's no alternate view material in the facade for the stairway section, that remains the brick configuration originally proposed, and that the window placements in the 3rd Street or south elevation in the eastern end of the building be a pair of mold windows and a single window on each of the floors.
Okay. Do we need anything in there about presenting actual samples in the future?
We can submit this.
Like maybe we want to see.
We would appreciate cut sheets and actual samples to the historic officer or the board chair, at least, just so we know what specific materials are involved.
Yes.
Any seconds on the motion?
Can we?
I'll
just
second.
add- I just wanted to add,
Sure.
just wanted to confirm that in addition to everything, the 7-inch exposure on the siding, the iron railings on the Juliet balconies as opposed to the aluminum, and that the 7-inch exposure, there was no print. It was a plain solid.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not clear on gutters and downspouts where they are in this building either, but should be
They should.
noted that.
They should also be part of that.
Yeah.
The guttering will be half round, preferably copper, and that the downspouting will be round.
Yes, I have.
Okay, so Roger, we have a second from you.
Mhm.
Okay, and let's put it to vote. Roger, who that?
Fine.
Craig Evans.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Mike Simonson.
Aye.
And it's Desiree
Strasser.
Strasser.
Aye.
And Chad Patrick. Aye. Oh, okay, so the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
And so when we say the cut sheets and the samples, you don't have to come back to us. Just bring them to the office and we'll look at them and get them to Jeff and Gary and.
Correct. We'll put together the cut sheet
Yep,
on a board and we deliver the sample. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you. Okay, back in the swing of things, we're up to item number 2, 317, 327 South New Street.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Right, right. Yes.
Agenda item number 2,
Very good, thanks.
317 to 327 South New Street. The applicant is returning from the November 15, 2021 HCC meeting with revisions and responses to HCC comments. The guidelines for my citation, guideline citations for my assessment include, Secretary of Interior Standards number 5 concerning distinctive materials, features, and finishes. That's specific to the portion of the project they are retaining and rehabilitating, as well as Secretary of Interior Standards number 6 concerning deteriorated historic features, again, that salvaged and rehabilitated portion. Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 concerning new construction. I cited that in the previous agenda item. The Bethlehem ordinance that created the district. The guidelines concerning new construction for the district. The guidelines for signing and awnings for the district, as well as the guidelines concerning storefronts for the district. The storefront guidelines I cited also in the previous project proposal. My evaluation: during the HCC meeting on November the 15th, 2021, the applicant presented responses to the requirement of the initial certificate of appropriateness that future project development would better unify the upper level facades with the facades at the street level for a more cohesive design, and also address such details as window and door types, cast sills and lintels, cornice profiles, and facade materials, along with street-level storefronts with awnings. They're quite similar in reference to project detail that we had on the previous agenda item. The accompanying drawings indicated the design proposal was still envisioned to include demolition of all existing structures while integrating the salvaged front facade at 321 to 323 South New Street. The applicant clarified their intended approach to protect the historical facade during the pending demolition, as well as resulting rehabilitation efforts. After a lengthy discussion, HCC passed a motion to table any decision to determine appropriateness of the proposed work 6-0 to 1, with abstention by Mr. Lausch. HCC felt it had provided sufficient feedback concerning the inability to approve the current proposal and encouraged the applicant to address such issues as cornice lines, create a more unified front facade, address the design of the highly visible side and rear facades, especially in relation to the nearby greenway, to center the service doors at the rear facade with the window bays above, to incorporate more storefront glazing at the side and potentially at the rear facades, to consider appropriate alternatives to the proposed inappropriate EFIS stucco system, and to present actual products, not just written specifications for proposed windows, doors, sills, etc. The current application represents the applicant's responses to commentary made at that meeting. The proposed design remains a 9-story mixed-use building that measures approximately 110 feet wide, approximately 75 feet deep, approximately 88 feet high at the shortest or southwest corner, and approximately 92 feet at the tallest or northwest corner. But also includes a mechanical penthouse that is obscured from view by a louvered equipment screening. The upper level facades now appropriately align with the street level facades, resulting in a more cohesive design, while the storefronts appropriately respond to the pitch of South New Street by stepping down to meet the adjacent public sidewalk. Aside from the rehabilitated historical facade, the initial 3 floor levels are clad in large format limestone panels which is appropriate. The proposed storefronts are appropriate, pending clarification about the frame materials. So they're labeled storefronts. We just need a quick description of kind of your idea of the material, approximate, if you know the dimensions, something like that. And we also like to make sure that the glass is not significantly recessed, that it's not necessarily flush, but it has a traditional, just a small setback. The applicant previously confirmed that all glazing is not tinted, colored, or reflective. The awnings above the storefronts with open ends are also appropriate, with the applicant's previous confirmation that the fabric is canvas or canvas-like woven vinyl. Simply pending color rendition, we only request that the colors avoid bright whites or any kind of neon colors. The paneled sign bands above the storefronts and similar panel cladding at the structural posts and at the second level facade above the passageway to East Graham Place are now confirmed as stucco paneling. Previously, it was not labeled and you were discussing options. They're now labeled stucco paneling, which is appropriate. Yet again, pending color rendition that avoids a bright white. The exterior cladding of the 4th through 7th floor levels is smaller format limestone panels for the vertical window groupings at the west or the front, the north or the side, and the east or the rear facades, with dark red or brick or brown brick elsewhere. Both materials are appropriate, so the limestone smaller panels and the brick is appropriate, pending acceptance of the submittals. So previously we saw the inappropriate EFS. We're assuming you, if you didn't bring samples, that you'll describe the vision for those brick panels. The applicant previously proposed metal panel siding at the 2 uppermost floor levels, while the current design indicates limestone veneer in the same format as at the remaining upper floor levels. So previously, they hinted at metal, and that was in relation to a project that HCC saw nearby and previously indicated for uppermost floor levels could be appropriate, but they decided to come back with, instead of metal, the limestone. In my opinion, it is potentially appropriate. However, the applicant might wish to consider smaller formats and or even a darker color if they're going to really indicate a difference. Right now, it looks like it's the same format and the same color as the rest. That was in reference to HEC's request to help mitigate the overall height of the building. But HEC has also consistently requested the applicant to consider setting back the uppermost floor levels, and we have not seen that in their response. So I'm also kind of torn because I think the difference in material and color probably is best when it goes hand in hand with the setback. If the applicant, and if you are willing to accept the fact that they're not setting back the uppermost floor levels, it might make more sense to just run the same kind of facade treatment from the rest of the building. That's based just on examples you find within the district. I think that really does deserve some kind of discussion. And I know the applicant must be a little frustrated because we keep going back and forth, et cetera, but it's the whole concept of really, when I went back and read the minutes, the desire to clad the uppermost floor levels had to do with the same request of considering reducing or setting the upper floors back. And because we're not seeing the setback, I question the logic of a different material, but I'll let you discuss. Without the setback, I mentioned that. So precast stone cornice moldings delineate changes in the facade cladding. The cast stone cornices are appropriate, and the applicant has provided per request profiles. They're indicated on the various drawings you have in the submittals. Like with the previous applicant, over time you might want to see, however, an actual material sample if you could coordinate with your once you've decided the company. Per HCC recommendation, the applicant also included a substantial cornice molding for the uppermost floor level, which is also appropriate. Previously, the building just kind of terminated, and the request was to bring a heavy cornice, and we now see that. The provided drawing sheets indicate brick facades at the 4th through 7th floor levels. As I stated previously, on the depiction, they seem to extend out beyond the other walls. I don't know if that's just from your computer, but we need to make sure to bring those walls in so that they align properly. Again, it's hard to scale it, but it is several inches currently kind of cantilevering out, and that would be inappropriate. The two intermediate structural posts on the north facade, they previously were kind of off-center. They've now been centered and work appropriately for the rest of the building. The window replacements have also improved from the initial submittal. There are 1/1 double hung sash with express sills and lintels, which are appropriate, yet again, pending approval of the specifications, and they may choose to have you submit, and several of us can take a look at those so that we don't hold up the motion. What we requested clarification last time and what we see now more, most windows are now depicted with the PTAC, the package terminal air conditioner vents, beneath each sill. Those are the little dark rectangles under most of the window sills. I don't have guidelines about those specific things. We just talk about painting things to match the facade, the surrounding facade. So I don't know if in the resolution you want to make something to ensure that whatever product they use is paintable so that it can be painted after the fact to match. Sometimes people like those things to, however, contrast with the building intentionally. Again, I don't have a specific guideline to help me from that perspective. The applicant also responded to the HCC suggestion to integrate additional storefront assemblies at the side or the north facade under the portico for improved visual connection with the adjacent greenway, which is appropriate. The relevant design guidelines indicate, quote, plain, modern flush doors are inappropriate, end quote. However, the solid doors depicted at the east or rear facade serve utilitarian purposes, and we have made exceptions to that rule for such utilitarian doors. We would, however, for motion purposes, need an understanding of the proposed material. Per recommendation, the applicant appropriately adjusted the placements of those doors so that they now align with the center lines of the window bays above, which is appropriate. Per HCC suggestion, the applicant also integrated awnings above the rear entrances. We didn't see those before, and we now see those. And the applicant also incorporated select window openings at the rear service level that appropriately align with the window bays above. My only concern, and I think I understand the logic, I think there's a kitchen behind there, so I understand the need to elevate those windows, but they seem really, really high based on the door placements. So it seems a little confusing to me, to say the least. But I do, looking at the floor plans, do understand a certain logic in those placements. So with that, I've completed my assessment, most of which HCC previously requested has been addressed. There are a couple of issues that I think still require some clarification. But as a reminder, because this was tabled, we must have a motion tonight, either to approve or deny. We cannot table yet again.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. And thank you, Jordan, for joining us. Would you like to talk about any of the comments Jeffrey just made?
Sure. So with respect to the exterior materials, we are down to just 3 material now, other than the windows. They are all masonry veneers, just thin set, traditional material. So it is limestone, it is brick, and it is cast stone. Nothing imitation. The windows themselves are all aluminum on the exterior at a minimum, where the storefront will be an aluminum frame system with a front glazing, not flush, but front glazing. And the double hung windows are all aluminum clad, so the exterior. With respect to the PTAC grates, we liked the look of it when they matched the windows to make it look like one cohesive unit, an opening. So that's why they're that color. They are going to be a metal material that can be painted, so they will be upkept. We did look at stepping the building back, but it just was detrimental to the layouts and the floor plans of the apartment units. So that's why we went back to the limestone, so that we, eliminated the possibility of the aluminum panel, just kept it all masonry, traditional, fitting with the exterior, with the surrounding buildings.
Yeah.
Everything else, I feel as though we've reviewed and incorporated into our.
Sorry, Jordan, hold on. Let's let our commission member finish his call. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Kids.
So with the respect to all the other comments, I feel as though we incorporated them all. You know, we've been working with the committee for going on 9 months now. I think we've come a long way. I think we're there personally. So we would, you know, really hope to come to terms tonight to move the project forward. We do have a schedule set with funding and things in place, so we are,
Right,
on our end at least, running out of time.
right. I think here's one thing I want to ask you about. On the elevations, you're showing some vertical lines coming down the brick. What is that?
We were hoping to do a little subtle detail there just to bring it out an inch or so, just to wrap the corners better, to make it, you know, give it just some sort of visual, not just a flat panel. But that's, you know, at this scale is probably rather here nor there.
You know what? I think it's a great detail, and that's what I was hoping it was. I see it in the plan, and you know, I think those kind of details really help a lot. So I was glad to see that. You know, I'm struggling a bit with the upper two floors, the 8th and 9th floor, because, you know, somehow, even though the limestone veneer seems like a great material to use, you know, so the middle part of the building is at one scale, and then the upper part's at another scale. And, you know, on the one hand, having that different material up there, I think it helps break up the building. But, you know, on the other hand, I'm not sure the scale of the limestone up there is quite right. You know, it just seems funny that you're going to a larger format material at the top of the building. And I think
That's supposed to be the smaller format. So as you get higher, the scale of the individual masonry units does decrease. So if that's not reading right, that's not the way it's going to be. And then
yeah.
with respect to the cornice there, we always felt that it belonged, but it did not look right with the metal panels. So that was another reason why we went back to the limestone.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't just do brick entirely from the 4th floor all the way up to the cornice of the roof?
We didn't like it. We preferred to use the limestone.
Right.
We just thought it was a nicer, more classic material.
Okay.
Using the brick as more of an accent than a dominating feature.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. So I guess the question for the commission is, you know, do we feel that it's appropriate because it's a mix of scales, it's a mix of formats, and
Well, the scale becomes cohesive after the 3rd floor,
Mhm.
and the brick and limestone.
but to my eye, it doesn't so much look that way. And in addition to that, the joints of it don't really seem to, you know, because it's a larger format unit, the joints of it don't seem to really be lining up with anything. You
That
know,
could-
like I don't see, like, so you delineate your heads to the windows, but, you know, it reads kind of like a tile rather than masonry. So, you know, like the joints look like, it looks like they're not really coordinated with window openings, you know, the way it would be in a traditional masonry building.
I
But-
think that's just a graphic representation from the hatch pattern on the computer.
I think that might come out of the computer.
That's the way, yeah. When applying the material to the skin in the computer.
Mhm.
But I do agree that, yeah, the joints will line up. I mean,
What would, I'm not sure if, maybe I'm misunderstanding your question, Gary, about the continuing the brick up, all the way up. But for those 8th and 9th floor, if the brick, I'll call it a column just for sake of argument.
Mhm.
If that were to continue and the window, the window units had the limestone around. In other words, just like the 4th through 7th floor, you have the windows surrounded by the limestone. And then those sections of windows separated with the brick. If we did the same thing on the
well, we did look at that, and we have in the past. I think one of our earlier submissions actually did show that, but the we wanted to give the look, and I'm using air quotes here, the look of a penthouse feel to the upper floors, you know, that more ritzy feel to it. And we felt that making it look like, because with the cornice, it actually looks like it steps back a little bit, even though in reality it doesn't.
right.
And that's what we're using for that visual break. And then lightening the colors as you go up helps the building seem less dominant from the street level.
Just exploring what the,
Oh, we've, yeah, I believe we did have that
okay.
at one point. We've explored the materials and the rhythm of each of them several times now.
Yeah.
Oh, and with the respect to the rear doors, the utilitarian doors, we were just assuming just your traditional insulated metal door.
Okay.
As they're, dumpsters will be coming out of them, they will be abused. So we want them to be as durable as possible. And we can paint them,
Well, it really helps that you add the awnings to them, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And adding the glass around the side that I guess faces the greenway, I think really helps too.
And the windows that, as Jeffrey mentioned, appear to be very high. Hopefully we can bring them down. It's just a matter of, functionality within the kitchen and the actual equipment and hood placement.
That might be an as needed on construction basis type of thing when we get out for inspections.
Right.
Field to suit.
Excuse me?
Field to suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would the hood come right out of that area right there where those windows are possibly, or are you gonna run it up the side or?
We'd like to just come out the side, but again, we don't even know the final kitchen equipment.
Gotcha.
If depending on the end user, maybe we don't even have a hood.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That will be something that will need to come before us. An ultimate decision on where that exhaust goes.
It will be on the rear of the building. I would prefer to not bring it up the exterior of the building. That always looks like
Yeah.
a mistake or a rehab.
It's a lot more hassle to clean. So
Yes.
it's easier to just keep it right there.
We'd like to bring it right. Yeah. I mean, shorter the amount of work, the shorter the
Sure.
potential for hazard. But again, if it becomes a salad place, there'll be no hood.
Yeah. I would prepare for.
We're preparing for one. We're planning on one, but whoever signs the lease, I guess, and that's not my decision.
I got you. I understand.
I mean, honestly, I think we've been through this one enough.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm ready to make a motion. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, I apologize.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment?
Doesn't look like there's anyone here from the public tonight.
Does anyone have anything else before I make the motion?
Take it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I'm going to propose the project be approved from the previous table motion as is. I'm sorry, recommends. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Jeff. I'm going to recommend that the project is approved as submitted from its previous table. I think the corrections made on the upper levels, floors 8 and 9, can stay as the limestone veneer with the brick veneer running between floors 3 through 7. As windows matching with the PTAC units below to match the window color.
4 through 8, Mike.
What's that?
4 through 8.
I'm sorry, 4 through 8. I apologize for the brick veneer. For the brick veneer. Yeah, all other comments have been addressed from previous meetings. I feel.
Okay, any seconds on this?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? The only, Jordan, I'd love it if you guys could, continue exploring the design. I mean, I found myself just printing out and looking at some of the other prominent buildings in the area, I'd like you to look more at some of the buildings by lay in the area, and just look at how I think you're going in the right direction, but it's a process, and there's always room to improve things, and I mean, just because it's going to be such a prominent building and it's really pushing the envelope for us, I still see places where you could finesse things and bring some more detail to it. So, I'm feeling like I'll go along with the commission on this tonight. I just hope you'll keep pushing on it. Okay, so let's put it to a vote. Roger Hudak,
I'm,
Craig Evans,
Aye.
I'll vote aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for putting the work into it.
Yeah, you definitely, 9 months, I felt all those.
Okay,
Sure.
all right.
Sure.
So what is 5 minutes? All right. All right. Oh, beautiful.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's actually a great photo.
Have a good night. This is just for the exterior stuff, right?
Yeah, this one is very simple.
Windows, doors, and associated hardware.
And you had a handicap ramp, right?
Well, yeah, the ramp isn't
That's just all the fun.
up to current code. We want to actually demolish and flip it so it's easier to get to from the street.
That's right.
This is the school?
Yes.
Have all Yancey?
Aaron has told.
Yeah, we just want to put in
Yeah.
new windows and doors and go back to the original opening.
For a while.
Yeah.
He really enjoys being at your place.
Yeah, we have no,
Yeah, it's
as a
nice
historic
down
board, we have no purview over
Always
EDA.
fun to have another
So
female
as
there.
long as it would meet the construction guidance as, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's,
Especially not
it-
it'll look better than it does.
Right, right.
Not always is.
Yeah.
Pretty good at dealing with it.
Did you,
Yeah.
off the record, did you deal with any of the 2017 codes yet? Did you have a chance to dive into them for the ANSIs?
We've been using them, yeah, in other projects.
Okay, yeah, with like the 67-inch turning radius for the bathrooms and stuff like that.
They're getting a little bigger, but
They did get a little bigger. I heard they were also looking at some changes possibly too for the existing buildings as well. Now making them handicap accessible, which I think is a great thing. But in a city like
Beautiful.
Bethlehem, that's going to be a very hard
sometimes
task.
it's, I mean, staircases.
Problem with
This,
the
you know,
building, one of
We
the
have a
big
lot of hills
problems
here,
is
you know what I mean? It makes it a very difficult. You're going to get a lot of technically
So that's
invasive.
got,
But, yeah, But that's going to be on a case-by-case basis,
That'll be
right?
all.
Yeah,
That's a
everyone's gonna have to apply to the
beautiful
flavored
building.
industry
I hope
in
they-
PA anyway,
Right.
so, you know, case by case.
Well, I think.
That's good.
Part of what.
I know Jeffrey.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
we've
that-
been talking.
I got you.
Mhm.
No, it's cool. It's fun.
Mhm.
It's interesting.
It is. This is something that's totally out of my realm. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
These are bad, cause like, after these projects we've seen already,
Yeah.
like 1 week. I read
Oh, gee.
it was just like,
Wow.
What are you, just,
Shoot, Mike, I have a
um,
general question
Yeah.
for you. Building
Go for
drawing,
something
the
tonight.
permit review for buildings.
yes.
Do you accept third parties? I was told that Bethlehem, like, there's a company that we work with all over.
So Bethlehem we do our own building and our own mechanical, but we do want the electrical, plumbing, and fire protection third party.
Your third party from
Last time.
in
As
town.
long as it's a state certified third party.
So are you familiar with NEIC?
Yeah, I am actually.
Okay, so he told me, we were talking about different projects, the sports facility we're doing. He told me that they're allowed to review drawings down here, and
It's just a state certification. So
Oh,
as
okay.
long as they're on L&I's website as a certified third party
yeah,
review
they do
company,
tons of cities, so
then they can do them. We do our own building and our own mechanical, unless
they would just do the
they do
plumbing,
electrical, plumbing,
fire protection.
fire protection, and sprinkler.
Okay.
Okay, so everybody ready to reconvene?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move to 127 East 4th Street.
So just for the record, I distributed a historical photograph of the project, and the applicant received that same image. I'll be referencing that in my assessment.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey.
127 East 4th Street, a building description, period, style, and defining features. The structure is a 4-story detached stone and brick masonry institutional building with a flat roof. Defining architectural features include a raised, stepped, and arched front parapet with a triple arched entry portal and banks of double hung windows. Building dates from 1925 and is Italianate revival in style. It is proposed to convert the former Holy Infancy School into a mixed-use building with a commercial tenant and 24 residential units. Proposed exterior work involves opening previously closed window openings and replacing all doors and windows. An exterior ramp will be constructed on the side of the building to accommodate ADA compliance. Used for my evaluation, I utilized guideline citations, including Secretary of Interior Standards numbers 5, 6, and 9, which we saw in the previous application, as well as the Bethlehem ordinance that created the historic district. My evaluation, the certificate of appropriateness application indicates the intent to change out all the existing windows with new aluminum replacements for improved energy efficiency. Many window replacements are 1/1 double hung sash, while most at the 3rd floor level are triple hung sash, but incorrectly labeled on the drawing sheets as double hung. So it indicates everything is double hung, but if you notice on the front, above the door, those are actually triples, meaning 3 sash, one over the other, and they're all functional. The provided historical photograph from 1929 confirms the building's windows originally had divided lights. If you take a look at the historical image, the sashes have divided lights. The current sashes do not. I do in the provided application. However, those windows are from the mid to the late 20th century, which is later than the period of interpretation of the district. So I would encourage the applicant to consider returning the divided sash detail because they are such a, what we consider a character defining element of a building. So admittedly, it's not 1-for-1 replacement, but I think it would improve actually the aesthetic of the building. And they need to either be true divided lights or at least exterior applied muntins and not the sandwich muntins between interior and exterior glass. Various existing configurations include gangs of windows with masonry mullions between each window. That's easier to see in the historic photograph. That's one reason I provided that. The drawings, that kind of disappears with all of the, just the ink and everything that goes on with the drawing. If you notice, these windows have pretty hefty mullions between them, and that's what I was pushing for in the last, with the previous applicant as well, is you have a true structural division between windows. That is considered appropriate. I don't think that the applicant's getting rid of those. They just kind of disappear in the drawing, but I do want confirmation just so we can include that in the resolution. Based upon the provided floor plan, select windows are interrupted by new interior wall systems, which is inappropriate. So we don't have anything visual on the screen, so I'm sorry, but again, one reason we like floor plans is to do exactly that. We just need to make sure some of those wall systems just need to be moved slightly, and I know you're very early in the planning stages, so that can perhaps be remedied.
Yeah, we won't be terminating any walls and any windows.
Okay. Currently, they are showing potentially.
Right, that's our test.
Yeah. We just need to make sure that doesn't happen ultimately. The same floor plans depict select bedrooms at the second floor balcony level and select living spaces on the first floor level with no windows. That would not only be unpleasant for the tenants, but might even violate building code. So again, I know you're just exploring, but just be very cautious. Again, the second floor balcony level. Or I guess, I'm sorry, it's called first floor balcony level. I apologize. I count 4 bedrooms with no windows. And then on the first floor, I count 4 living areas with no windows as well.
I have that answer.
Okay. We don't assess floor plans, but we do assess their ramifications on the facades. So if they don't have them now, I don't know if you're, what I'm alluding to is you might.
So I think it just reads a little differently because
Okay.
within the existing auditorium, there'll be basically like a 2-story apartment.
Okay.
So the original opening will be visible in both, so there are
Okay.
windows. It
And I
just might
figured
not
that
have read where the plan was cut.
that's fine. Yeah, I figured that was a clarification. It just reads unusual on the floor plans. And they even go on to say, upon applicant's clarification of those issues, the replacements seem appropriate pending submittal of product information. Typically, we're looking for the fabricator, the materials, the finishes, dimensions, all those kind of things. And ideally, ultimately, some product samples as well. What we really need, especially for this, is to confirm that the window fabricator accommodates custom sizing, because these are all going to be non-standard windows. So what we don't want are windows that are current standard sizes and then they're compensated with additional fill or trim. So we need to make sure that the window replacements appropriately fit the existing historical openings. There are double height window openings at the rear or the north facade, as well as both side facades, so the east and west facade. And you see that in the provided historical image that I provided you as well. Those are currently covered over, and usually where you have a series of large windows illuminating the auditorium, et cetera, inside, currently there's just a relatively small window. The rest is just framed out and trimmed over. I don't know what's going on behind there. In the photograph, you see, yet again, those hefty mullions in those large window openings. If those are still there, we would request that they be retained and you work around them.
This is our goal.
So
Absolutely.
if they're not there, then you can kind of imply them with certain things. And that looks like what's going on now. We just needed to talk about that a bit more. I don't know if you've explored what's behind all that framing to see if anything is still there or not. But
Not yet, but
Yeah.
we've seen both conditions in other places.
yeah, but if it's there, we really would require that to be retained.
Absolutely.
The project description also notes the intent to open previously closed window openings, which would be appropriate. There's several window openings that are closed over currently with more contemporary brick. I think they've opened all of them except for one, is what I could count. We would, however, then need to discuss perhaps at a future meeting what those replacements look like. Do you replace one for one all of those stone mullions and things like that, or do we talk about a contemporary intentional alternative? And from the drawings, it's just not at the level of detail yet where we can make those kind of decisions, but I think it's important to understand what's at least initially proposed and if that would be considered appropriate or not. Typically, we say it would replace to match the existing, but depending on how big and how many of those openings you're reestablishing, that might prove to be a challenge. There is one previous opening that it looks like it remains closed. That would be on the entry level on the side facing west, near the southwest corner. I think it even has a vent, a kitchen vent, and all those kind of things. It has inappropriate brick and all kinds of mortar and all these kind of things. Your drawing just kind of fleshes over all that, and I didn't know if you had plans to maybe redo that section
Yeah, they
as
want
well.
to, there's an existing hood in a kitchen there that
Yeah.
they'd like to utilize for a tenant,
Mhm.
but we can certainly rehab that exterior there. And I think we would have to regardless.
I think if you don't, it's going to really stick out like a sore thumb if you're doing everything else and you leave that, because it's right on the front corner, to be honest. So, okay. And we can talk about in the future how best to do that kind of thing. The drawing sheets do not depict the existing historical wooden double-hung sash with 4/4 light configurations. Those you can see in the photograph. When you go up the entrance stairs to the right and the left, there are original windows actually under there, and they have divided lights. I just didn't know your intention for those. They're not called out anywhere. They could serve as a pattern to give you dimension for what you're looking for on all the others.
Mhm.
I was glad to see those there because I think they're important and they're kind of hidden, but they could be the basis of everything moving forward, which would be wonderful. As with the other projects, applicants should be aware that reflective tinted or colored glazing is inappropriate. The supplemental cover letter indicates the intent to replace all the exterior doors, quote, to match the windows. That's a little hard to understand how the doors would match the windows considering what I just discussed. The historic photograph does indicate that the doors used to be paneled and had divided lights. We're not seeing those on the current drawings. It doesn't mean that you can't think about them later, but I'm currently just seeing what looks like flat, probably metal doors or something. As I stated in the previous one, the guidelines say that that's not appropriate. We gave the exception to your previous project because those were utilitarian doors kind of in the back. So I think we need to discuss, if not today, in the future, a more appropriate approach for the door, since you are changing out, which I agree the ones there now are not appropriate for what you want to do. But we would want to yet again understand materials, if there's going to be lights, what they are, those kind of things. The biggest problem I think I have in reference to doors is the door that's associated with the new handicap ramp. It's around the corner, so it's on the southeast. It just kind of interrupts the window configuration and leaves every other part of the window just kind of there. It takes away the sill. The door is placed, and whatever's left around it is just kind of framed and lighted out. I would really challenge you to try to come up with a different entrance exit scenario there. I don't know if there's a way that can happen within the masonry wall that doesn't interrupt that large window configuration, because it would damage a lot of the historical details, which we would consider inappropriate. The handicap ramp, that's considered a necessary safety code issue, so we don't counter that or anything, but it would be nice just to have some understanding of the vision for that, what kind of materials you're talking about in reference to the ramp itself, the handrail, et cetera, just so that those can be integrated into the resolution. The application makes no mention of of any intent to clean the exterior. But I think once you start working in this building, you're going to want to clean that. And we do have guidelines for that. There are actually some, they're called preservation briefs. They're issued by the National Park Service. I don't know if you're familiar with them. We would recommend that you research those and find one that fits your scenario, and use those. I think that'll make a huge difference as soon as you clean up that facade. There's also just a lot of abandoned fasteners, conduits. I noticed a lot of hanging brackets for air conditioners that are no longer there. I'm assuming and hoping that the process is to take care of all of that as well. Just getting rid of those extremities will really help the building. The application doesn't make mention of the rainwater collection system. There are downspouts, but at the first floor level, they transitioned to PVC, which is inappropriate. So again, that could be something later on that we would like to see. Again, we don't assess gutters and downspouts, we just encourage. I would encourage you to come up with an alternative for the bright white, plumber PVC.
No, they would be switched to copper.
Okay. And then there's very little lighting. So I'm assuming later on we're going to see some ideas about some kind of exterior lighting, because I think with what you have there now would be significantly insufficient for your purposes. So that would be something we would want to see at a later date. And then finally, I'd like to close with challenging you to somehow explore the northwest corner. That is the corner that connects this project site with the Greenway. And currently that's kind of a back alley, for lack of a better term, that terminates in a metal gate with a padlock, etc. Not very welcoming, and doesn't really encourage communication between the future residents and the Greenway. And I know the project just adjacent to this that was proposed two meetings ago, that was also the challenge to that design group, because the city itself really wants to see interaction, between these buildings. And
Yeah,
the
there is a
Greenway.
city playground right out there. So
Exactly.
that will be treated as a connector. Especially, we're still talking to the
Of course.
neighboring project, but
Sure.
that will be, because that's also our handicap entrance, so we need to have that properly lit, properly landscaped, properly maintained.
Sure. It's
and
just
really
not
cleaned up.
not very inviting right now. You can't go any further. You have that gate. So I agreed. It's development needing. I'm not saying we need to assess that currently, but that would be my challenge to you as well, is to figure out a way to make that more accommodating. So with that concludes my assessment.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Jordan.
I mean, in a nutshell, this is our goal, just to take it back to the way it was with more of like an aluminum window. The storefront with respect to the storefronts and everything the way it is, the way this picture shows. We do plan on having these muttons between all the windows and the sashes as shown. With respect to the exterior doors, the comment in the application was a little vague. We feel that every door on this building will be used on a regular basis, so we'd like them to be, a commercial aluminum entrance door with the full glass light. I mean, we were on the roof. Everything else is in pretty great shape. I agree that the brick does need to be cleaned, and that was part of the plan. But just to keep it simple, our goal is to take this back to this photograph, which is basically new windows and doors, strip anything that was face applied that shouldn't be there, replace the downspouts with new copper, and that's really it. We're not, we're looking to move one door, but we want to flip the handicap ramp to make it more accessible from the main entrance. Right now, it's actually pointed toward the rear of the building, so it's a hassle to get there. So we'd like to and reconstruct it so that it's up to the current standards. That's a concrete ramp with the brick veneer on it to match the building. Black aluminum round railing with the meeting all code requirements. And again, it's on the side of the building. And with the new building going next door, we want to pay special attention to what goes on in between those two buildings. That will become a main thoroughfare for both residents, I imagine. So that'll be properly lit and maintained. We do have some interior issues that need more remedy, and that may translate to some work we do out there as well.
Jordan, I'm not sure I followed with the existing mullions between the windows. Are they cast stone? Is that what there?
That's what they're showing. We'd like to figure out a way to do that, but if nothing else, the thickness is something we'd like to incorporate to give that look.
Is it the kind of thing where you could just leave it in place without messing with it at all?
Oh yeah, I think so. Again, until we pull a window out and see if there's any
happens.
significant deterioration or anything. Yeah.
Okay. Were these? So it looks like these windows were. They're not the original ones anyway. That it was.
No, we'd like to get away from the blue color on that as well.
Do you have a particular product in mind you're looking at for this?
For the windows?
Yeah.
I'm always partial to just defaulting to like an Anderson aluminum clad window, high energy efficiency. Again, they need to be rescue windows, so we have to meet that requirement. But like aluminum clad PVC or wood, hopefully, so that the interior can be painted. But all aluminum on the exterior.
Okay. Yeah, I think probably we'd all be in favor of something that's aluminum clad and wood interior, even though our focus is really on the exterior.
Mm-hmm.
I know in our other historic district, and probably in this one too, we've approved fiberglass windows, because the profiles of them. Pella has a line where the profiles are historically appropriate, and apparently they're very durable.
Yeah, well, definitely we've been looking into the basically Pella and Anderson are the two that we've been looking into, and it's cost. But to accomplish this look, I think regardless we can simply do that.
Is another one Norwood?
No, Norwood, yeah.
Norwood is another manufacturer.
I think Norwood, the advantage is you could do an entirely wood frame on Norwood windows, and they have a special kind of paint coating that's supposed to be very durable if you ever want to look at that product.
Definitely.
I mean, there's certainly a lot of options out there,
Yeah, I think various manufacturers can all meet this desire.
Yeah, I think maybe again with Norwood, the specific advantage is that paint coating that somehow was able to weather many years. How they do it, I'm not sure. So per Jeffrey's comment with how you're locating the door at the ADA ramp, are you willing to explore a way to locate it so that it doesn't mess up the rhythm of the existing mullions?
Yes, it's a matter of functionality for the ramp for the linear distance that we need, and what's there we feel is not the best solution for access.
Okay. So I guess at this point, we would make a motion to approve this project for your intention to make all these improvements, with the understanding you'd come back here with specific samples of the window system you're going to use, and and any of the other things.
Applicable materials.
Right. Okay, so just to keep things moving, I'd like to make a motion for the project at 127 East 4th Street for a certificate of appropriateness with the following notes. The doors will be a commercial aluminum entrance door as appropriate. You'll come back with product literature and cuts first next time. Same thing with the window system. You'll explore how to get a more appropriate doorway at the top of the entrance ramp. Divided lights. We'd like to preferably see something that's either a true divided light or at least applied buttons, not the kind where it's looks fake and it's in between a piece of glass.
No, that the thickness between the windows will actually help the interior layout. So we're definitely going to be working with that.
And note that you don't approve reflected or tinted glass, although energy efficiency is important, and I believe low E is something that is standard, and the energy code is something that we have to observe too. It sounds like you are planning to, well, you'll explore, or part of your project will involve cleaning and removing fasteners and brackets and all that other stuff that's no longer in use on the building. You're planning to replace downspouts where there's PVC and to make it all copper. And it sounds like future visits to us on this project will include lighting as well. All right, any seconds on my motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Roger Hudak, Craig Evans,
Aye.
I vote aye, Mike Simons,
Aye.
Desiree
Strasser.
Strasser, I'll get it next time.
That's all
Desiree
right.
Strasser.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Fitzpatrick, thank you. I'm good.
Thank you very much.
The motion carries.
All right.
And so, I'm sorry to backtrack to the last project, but I realize, and maybe we'll have to talk more about this, but I think, we're probably, it should have been part of the motion. I think there's things like lighting and material samples we're going to want to see too, and that's
Yeah, we can bring samples. That's no problem. It's actually just hard to get them right now.
understood. Yeah, I just don't think it was mentioned before, but I just want to make sure that it's, on the record, we talk about it.
Yeah, and samples, when you bring samples in for something like that, since the majority of your project's already approved, you don't have to come back in front of the board, or you could drop them off at the office so we can make them readily available
Okay.
for the
All right,
board.
we'll do
members
that
to come.
probably for both, actually. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I lost, oh, here it is. Okay, so we are now up to 321 East 4th Street. Do we have Chris Egan here? Oh, okay. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
321 East 4th Street. Building description, period, style, and defining features. The structure is a 2 1/2 story, semi-detached brick masonry building with a gable roof. There's a steel balcony at the second floor level, a projecting upper cornice with decorative wooden brackets, 2 roof dormers with paired windows with pointed arches and quatrefoil detailing, casement windows, and a door with transoms at the second floor level, along with an altered storefront. The main building was constructed in circa 1890 and is stylistically mixed with Gothic revival as well as Italianate details. The 2-story brick masonry rear addition with flat roof and double-story framed rear porch was constructed during the early 20th century. It is proposed to install a new EPDM, a rubber roof membrane system on top of the existing roof surface, including removal of the existing terracotta coping tiles and replacing with 1/2 inch CDX plywood on the inner face and solid 2x10 lumber on the top of the revealed brick surface, meaning the top of the parapet, and covering that with sheet aluminum coping. Guideline citations for my assessment include the Secretary of Interior Standards number 6 that has to do with deteriorated historic features should be repaired rather than replaced, where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature. The new feature will match the old in design, color, texture, and where possible material. Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 concerning new additions or changes to a historic building, as well as the Bethlehem ordinance that created the district. My evaluation and recommendations. The Certificate of Appropriateness application indicates the intent to repair the existing flat roof at the rear extension by installing a new EPDM rubber roof membrane over the existing roof, including removing the existing terracotta tiles that serve as the coping on top of the upper parapet and replacing with aluminum coping. The surface of the proposed rubber roof is not visible from the public right-of-way, so an HCC review of that specific component is not required. However, replacing the terracotta tiles with aluminum-covered lumber is visible from the public right-of-way and therefore triggers HCC review. So we're reviewing not the roof itself, because that's not visible. It's basically a flat roof From every public right-of-way, you cannot see that roof, but you can see the vertical wall and the coping that is adjacent to that roof. The applicable Secretary of Interior standards note that deteriorated historical features should be repaired rather than replaced, but if deterioration requires replacement, the new features should match the original. The application and the supplemental photographs provide no evidence that the existing terracotta tiles require full replacement. Indeed, the supplemental photographs indicate most tiles are well above the installation height of the existing roof, so discussion is warranted. So it actually is a quite high parapet if you take a look at the photograph. I do admit the intersection of the parapet of that rear addition to the gable roof of the older building is problematic, and I'm sure that's where the water is penetrating the building. I'm not discounting that whole topic. And previous roofers and maybe even not roofers have gone up there and just patched using I don't know what on top of the coping at that location. But once you get a few feet away from that location, because of the pitch of the roof, even though it's officially qualified as a flat roof, it does have a pitch to it. You do have a sizable section of that roof that has, at least from the ground, appears to be good quality terracotta. And those do date from our period of interpretation, so early 20th century. So the guidelines state, before you completely replace something, especially if there's nothing wrong with it, you should strive to replace in kind. Now, I admit we don't make those terracotta tiles currently. I'm not saying you can go to a home improvement store and just grab a few. And also the proposal changes somewhat the installation of the new roof. They pull the entire rubber roof membrane up onto the parapet, which currently is not happening. So they are theoretically improving the roof or the life of that roof by pulling the roof and capping it up under the coping, which currently doesn't happen.
All right.
So it's a difficult balance, in my opinion. We want the roof to function properly. We don't want them to be living constantly with roof leaks. But the solution breaks the guidelines we use by completely removing all of the terracotta, even though really only a couple of segments of terracotta have failed. But also, if we require them to salvage the terracotta, it's very possible that a lot of them will break upon removal because we just don't know how they're installed.
Right.
So for me, I'm kind of torn between the two. If it's a replace in kind, then it's probably going to be a full replacement of terracotta from a different source, but we'll have the aesthetic of the terracotta. Another alternative, and we have a few examples in the district where this has been seen as appropriate. We do have a contemporary metal cap, but rather than the bright white that they're showing currently, we request that it be painted either the color of the trim, which in this case I think is kind of a beige on the rest of the building, or it would be painted the red brick color so that it just kind of disappears. It looks like it's part of the wall. So if we really stick to the guidelines, they say replace in kind, which would mean a terracotta coping. But we do have examples where we've approved an alternative based on the situation with a couple of strings attached. So I don't have a specific recommendation. I can only give you those two scenarios at this point.
Is that it, Jeffrey? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Excuse me. Well, thank you everybody for having me here. Thank you, Jeffrey, for that assessment. I think we at Touchstone agree. We wish we could keep the terracotta, but as we've been looking at it with some different contractors, and it doesn't show extremely well on these pictures, the cement and masonry work underneath that's in the terracotta coping, it is more deteriorated on each one going down. Like, so even in this picture that shows going up towards the dormers and the angled roof, Every single one of these, all of the molding and cement is crumbling and falling out. This roof was just replaced, I believe, 5 to 7 years ago. And this work was done at that point, and it is all deteriorating already. We have major interior water damage in all of the offices on our second floor, particularly in our managing director's office, where wall is just crumbling away. And so, in speaking with Keith Kmeyer over at Alan Koonsman Roofing, the idea was that if we did move to the aluminum flashing or the aluminum coping on top and do the roof in this way, it would not only take out the damage and improve the life of the roof, but it would also include then that wall in the warranty for the roof itself, as opposed to just the rubber roof. It would include the whole thing in the 20-year warranty, which would give us a lot longer standing. Keith also mentioned that the aluminum can be done in the classic bronze color, which would make it match the gutters and downspouts that were put on when we redid the back balcony, and is similar in color to what the terracotta currently is, or can be done in any color we want almost. The other idea was to match the brick so that it disappeared into the brick. But goal is long-term without having to, again, come back in here in 5 or 6 years and replace again, because the cost is not only then the roof itself, but all the interior drywall work that's going to have to be done. And we're not sure what we're going to find once we go in to try to do that drywall work, as far as what damage there may be in studs and things of that nature. But I believe, and so that is where we're really at as far as that goes. If we need to do the terracotta, we can absolutely go back to Keith and Alan Koonsman and see if there's a way or what they can source for that. But the same concern was the terracotta itself was not something we were going to be able to just go grab. And as a nonprofit, we were trying to keep it. We have a grant that covers a good chunk of it, but we don't know how much of an increase that terracotta would be.
Well, you know what? Maybe the best thing on this is, go with a new coping and maybe just to make it look a little closer to what used to be there. Maybe a dark bronze is a better choice. I think bright white is not the right choice.
Right.
And I was going to say, if there's a terracotta out there, but from a distance, it just looks like a thin, dark line. So I think like a dark bronze is maybe the way to go. And at the end of the day, you really want something that's going to be worry-free for many years. Yeah.
Yeah, second.
Now, I know it's Alan Koonsman, and I just got a comment on the sketch. I'm sure this will be done right, but like this is supposed to be a drip edge here. It's not supposed to stick in. It's supposed to stick out.
Right.
Sorry, I just got, as an architect,
I will pass that on to Keith when I see him. He did do the drawing pretty quickly for us.
Okay. Yeah. With a little bead of sealant under it, and then you're good to go.
Yep, and I believe that is definitely the plan. Based on my conversation with Keith, he couldn't be here with us tonight.
Okay, so I will call that my motion for 321 East 4th Street. Any second? Second. Okay, how to do that?
I'll take the second. Yes, aye.
Craig Evans?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mike Simonson?
Aye.
Desiree Strasser?
Aye.
Okay, Chaz Patrick?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we are now up to 127, 129 East 3rd Street. Hi, how you doing? Uh, 127, where's the packet?
This is mine. Is that yours, close?
So it's listed 129. Okay, I do have it. Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember you from last time.
Yep.
Yeah. And would you be Ali?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Good
What-
evening.
Were you able to do your banner?
No, we didn't do anything yet.
Okay.
Postpone opening.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully
I'm
we'll
sorry,
get
I'm
you-
here by myself. The sign guy is not in.
Okay.
He drove from Jersey, and you guys okayed him to attend over the phone.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, so
The property is located 127 to 129 East 3rd Street. Building description, period style defining features. The structure is a 3-story, 3-bay, brick attached commercial and residential building with a flat roof. It has a projecting pressed metal upper cornice, flat window lintels at the second floor level, and a renovated storefront. Building dates from circa 1890 and is Federal Revival in style with Italianate details. Proposed alterations: it is proposed to install a new sign and to place vinyl stickers on the storefront window. Citation guidelines I used for my assessment include the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 we've seen in most, or I've cited in most of the previous projects, the ordinance that created the district, as well as the guidelines for signage and awnings that we've seen in 2 previous projects. My evaluation and recommendations. The submitted certificate of appropriateness application indicates the intent to install signage at the existing sign band to reflect a new commercial tenant. The word king is proposed in stylized sans serif, all uppercase lettering in dark red color, followed by the word wing in the same stylized sans serif uppercase lettering in dark green color. Centered between both words is a chicken head corporate logo in yellow and white colors with a crown in dark red color. The application notes the intent to individually mount the 3mm thick PVC dimensional letters directly onto the existing sign band using glue. The dimensions of the proposed signage are 12 inches tall by 117 inches wide. Unfortunately, there's no overall dimensions of the existing sign band. So normally we'd like to understand the sign in relationship to the band itself. And we know the sign here, but I don't know if the depiction we have is to scale. That's the reason I'm bringing it up. The proposed signage at the sign band is appropriate with the following clarifications and modifications. I would request the applicant to confirm the new lettering will not interrupt the details of the molding. So if you take a look, just above the sign band is a series of dental molding. We want to make sure that the new sign is lower than that. It stays away from that. And there are also decorative panels below the sign panel. We want to make sure that it's enough above that as well. I would also encourage the applicant to consider studs for installing individual letters. Our guidelines don't reference glue or any adhesive for lettering because of the damage that it would do to the building. Even better than individual letters with individual studs is to apply the whole sign to a backer. And then the backer would only need, say, 4 or maybe 6 fasteners. Currently, each letter would need, a series of studs, which is going to create a lot of holes. If the logo was to go on a backer, it would probably need to be a little bit smaller because you're going to need some space around the lettering for the backer. And we typically request a border around the outer perimeter of a sign. So if the commission prefers everything on a backer, everything will need to be made smaller to accommodate all of that. The pinstripe detail could potentially be a color that matches a color from the logo as well. The owner is not here, but in my opinion, the existing sign, when it's removed, will create some damage because they did not follow our request and they individually mounted the letters to the building. The resolution requested a backer and they did not follow that resolution. So it's not the applicant's fault that before you put on your sign, I think the owner of the building is going to be facing some damage that needs to be repaired before you put your sign. Maybe I'm wrong, but typically in these cases, there's going to be something. And I don't know if your sign would cover all that damage or not, based on the design that's there now. So that is the sign above the storefront. Then the application also indicates the intent to install similar signage as vinyl stickers in the storefront window. Yet again, the word king and the logo is on one text line, and then the word wing is on the next text line. So slightly different from the all horizontal in the upper sign. And this time the logo serves as the dot over the letter I in wing. The dimensions of this sign are 12 inches tall by 36 inches wide. Yet again, we don't have dimensions of the overall window to know if what we have in front of us is dimensionally correct or not. The signage for the window, storefront window, is appropriate, yet again with certain clarifications. First, all stickers are to be installed on the inside of the window, not the outside, the exterior. Sometimes applicants are not aware of that. We also, even though it's depicted with an outline, we don't allow logos with outlines. So maybe the depiction was outlined just so that we could read it, but we want to make sure that ultimately the stickers are not a color with some kind of other color outline. I would even recommend raising the sign. Currently, it's centered horizontally as well as vertically in the storefront. We've learned from experience with our shop owners that if they raise the sign to the upper third, that allows someone on the street to see inside the building better. And the sign actually reads better from the street if it's a little bit higher. So the initial reaction is always center everything. We can't require that, but we can recommend that it be raised a bit. And therefore, I think you would have better interaction with people walking past, to be honest. And then finally, this is not part of the application, but it's part of my observation. There is inappropriate LED lighting around the interior perimeter of the storefront window. We did ask the previous shop owner to remove the LED lighting, and that has not been done. And I don't want this gentleman to get into trouble. We don't allow the track LEDs that you currently have in there. And I didn't want you to be disappointed by that. I wanted you to hear it from us now.
We'll take it off.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes my assessment.
It shows up in the photo. I don't know if it's still there, but there's also some inappropriate lighting in the fascia band. I don't know if that was removed, but we talked about it before.
Yeah, they actually, I had to go back to my records as well. They came back to us, and that ultimately did get, I know what you mean, because it has an exposed conduit
Right.
and everything. And the owner came back and explained that because of the apartment on the inside of that wall, it was impossible for him to change the conduit and the junction box on the inside. And so HCC at that time did accept that as reasonable. And so I didn't bring that up this time because we've already dealt with that previously.
Okay, so it is still there and we're stuck with it.
Yes.
Okay, because they're really not very nice fixtures.
No, we were very disappointed back then about that. But this has nothing to do with this applicant. It's the owner of the building.
Great. Well, Ali, are you okay with the recommendations that Jeffrey's making for your signage?
Yeah, of course. Please have it written somewhere so we can just hand it to the sign guy.
Okay, all right. Did you say he was going to be on the phone there?
Yeah, I can call him.
Oh.
Would you like video call or?
Maybe all we need to do really is for Jeffrey to create a record that you could give to him, of all these recommendations.
Okay, great.
That's okay. So I don't know if anybody would like to make a motion on this.
I'll go for it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to, I'm going to take them as two separate signs. For the upper sign to be applied via backer board on top after the existing sign is removed with a pinstripe border around the sign in a color of the logo. Any damaged facade caused by the removal of the New York Gyro sign should also be repaired at that time.
Okay.
And then the sign in the window my first recommendation would be to remove the LED lighting from the window, and that wait, one more thing I want to add is, so before I get to the window, the backer board sign should be studded into the storefront. It should not be applied via any silicone glue or anything. It should be fastened to the building itself to minimize damage to the,
Backer board should be AZEK or,
and the backer board should be made of an AZEK material.
That material?
We'll write this all down for you.
Okay, great, thanks.
And then for the window, the storefront window, I recommend that the vinyl sticker, the stickers are applied via vinyl stickers on the inside of the window, and they are installed with no outlines on these stickers. That the in the picture it shows it appears to show that they are outlined in a white outline, but for the installation purposes, the sticker in the front window should reflect the stickers presented to us at the bottom of the page. The page I'm referring to is the Smart Graphics New Jersey page with no outline.
Any seconds?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? And just because I want to get in the habit, any comments from the public? Okay. All right, we'll put it to a vote. Roger Hudak,
Aye.
Craig Evans.
aye.
I vote aye. Mike Simonson.
Aye.
Desiree Strasser.
Aye.
Chaz Patrick.
Aye.
Okay, so motion carries. Thank you. And
Thank you.
best wishes on your new business.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, are we ready to bring up 1200 Spring Street?
So what's going to happen next is we're going to do these minutes together, okay? Then these minutes are passed on to council. They approve them, and then there's a certificate of appropriateness that is issued. You'll get a copy of that certificate of appropriateness, and that'll tell you exactly what our guidance is on the installation of everything.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay?
Take care.
Yep.
Thank you.
And now we're ready for 1200 Spring Street.
Thanks, sir.
I think this is with Holy Family Manor.
This is,
It's the entrance from the back. So. There's like a driveway from Spring Street. That's what the address is anyways.
this is the entrance.
And that's Prospect is here, and so Spring Street's down this way. So that's the address. I didn't
Okay,
realize it
and Joseph and George. Okay,
How
thank
are you? George is unfortunately not with us here. I have our director of maintenance. His name is Randy Smith. I'm Joe Shadid. I'm the CEO of Holy Family Senior Living.
Okay.
As you know, we report to the Bishop of Allentown, and we have the roof to put on Grace Mansion. It's one of the oldest homes on the street, I believe.
Okay.
Great history for that place. And I've been with Holy Family for about 2.5 years as a CEO. One of the things we've changed one of the roof on. I was here before. Now we have the roof on Grace Mansion to change and upgrade because we're going to have issues if we don't.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
here. And the procedure is that Jeffrey will now talk about your project.
Thank you.
This structure is a 3.5 story red brick interconnected building currently used as a senior living continuous care facility. The original historic house dates from the early 20th century and is classical revival in style. It served as the home of Eugene Grace beginning in 1923. Mr. Grace was president of Bethlehem Steel during the period 1913 to 1945, and then served as its chair during the period 1946 to 1957. Constructed in 1968, to the rear of the house is the attached Holy Family Manor, with a connector with angled corner to the later McShay Pavilion addition. Proposed alteration: it is proposed to replace the existing slate roof and damaged gutters. The new roof will be, this is based on the application, will be any applicable shingle type roof, and gutter replacement are to be half round copper. The citations, guideline citations I used for my assessment include Secretary of Interior Standards number 6. We saw this with the other roof replacement. I'm just going to read the critical components because I think it's important to always hear those. Deteriorated historic features will be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of the deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new feature will match the old in design, color, texture, and where possible, material. Also use Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 concerning new construction, as well as the Bethlehem ordinance that created the historic district. And in this case, we're talking about the Mount Airy district. My evaluation and recommendations. The certificate of appropriateness application indicates the intent to remove the existing slate roof and replace with, quote, any applicable shingle type roof, end quote, as well as to replace the existing gutters with half-round copper gutters. The applicable Secretary of Interior standards note that deteriorated historical features should be repaired rather than replaced, but if deterioration requires replacement, the new features should match the original. The applicant is already starting to allude to that, and I'm assuming during the discussion we'll hear more about the deterioration of the materials. It's a little hard to tell from the photographs, but I'm sure they've probably had many experiences with repairs, etc. And I do recall when the applicant was here prior and we had a similar discussion. The application and the supplemental photographs, again, it's hard to see if, based solely on that, that a full roof replacement is necessary, but they're here to explain that proposal. If the proposal to replace the existing slate, which slate itself is a character-defining feature, we can't discount that. But if the proposal to replace is determined by HCC as appropriate, based on their request for any applicable shingle-type roof, we do have guidelines for shingles.
Right.
In the past, when a slate roof has been determined beyond repair and economically not viable for the applicant, HCC has recommended for approval a GAF slate line non-architectural shingle. It is typically in what we call antique slate color, so it mimics slate. As a reminder, it's not the architectural shingles go up and down. We want the uniform shingles if they agree to this approach. During the removal of the existing slate, which we don't have specifications here, it's key to repair any underlayment properly. Otherwise, you're just throwing money, at a problem. Typically, you're going to need a new ice and water shield because what you had for slate is going to be very different for an asphalt shingle. Again, I don't see those components. I'm not saying you haven't thought about it, but we need to put that into motion. We do request, even with shingled roofs, that the valleys are open rather than woven. And the valleys would need to be I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. So the new ice and water shield should be installed in the valleys and the gutter edges, and the new underlayment should be installed over decking at any kind of remaining areas. There should be a vent detail at the ridge. Typically, they make vents for those, and I think for your previous project, we also saw that. They're typically roof cap shingles at the very ridge of the construction, and that helps to ensure longevity of the shingles. You do have some dormers and some chimneys, and we request that they have copper step flashing. All valleys, as I stated before, need to be open, so not woven with the shingles, but they need to stay open. And those valleys also need to be lined in copper. And then any kind of metal drip edges, so at the very edge leading into the gutters, that doesn't have to be copper. Typically, we say a metal, typically an aluminum that can be painted that matches the adjacent trim, so it doesn't stand out as a bright white or something like that. So the first thing after they discuss, officially the guidelines say replace in kind, which would be slate with slate. But based on their discussion, you might be faced with coming up with an alternative, and the alternative I just described, and I can answer any questions about the slate line as needed. And finally, they mentioned gutters. Half-round copper gutters are appropriate. Those are always our recommendation for the gutters. You'll have downspouts, and they would need to be true round downspouts, and also copper with copper, so copper downspouts as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so interested to hear, you sure you can't repair and continue maintaining the existing slate roof you have?
Now, unfortunately, and I can tell you, looking at the roof, it
Mhm.
needs to be replaced. As a matter of fact, I have a proposal here. I had the roofer put something for me, so can I give it to you?
Oh,
Just
sure,
so you can.
sure.
So it probably answers a lot of that questions and probably answers this question as well. I made it in a font of 14 and straightforward.
Because, in general, if you're doing regular maintenance on a slate roof, it lasts forever. I mean, after so many years, you have a new slate roof anyway.
Yeah. I think you can speak to this. I think they're so old that it's so thinned out,
They're very brittle.
very brittle.
But
That's the issue. And they
But-
keep falling down.
when was the last time you had maintenance done on it?
The roof is checked yearly by our roofing contractor, and now they won't even go up on it because it's just sliding off.
Oh, so were they just checking it but not doing any maintenance?
They were doing the repairs, missing slates and things like that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, to me, look, I'm not trying to clobber anyone, but to me, it just sounds like, okay, enough of it wasn't being replaced year after year, and yeah, I mean, unfortunately, slate, it's a great material. It's just it's got to be kept on top of every year, and it's just it's a maintenance expense. So I mean, if you're being told now that so much of it is shot that it's just not worth saving anymore, I could understand that. It's just kind of too bad, and it's probably going to be a huge. See, I would think like up front it's going to be a huge expense for you, and you're going to get a 30-year roof, I guess, in asphalt shingle, and and that's where it's at. But so it sounds like based on this contractor you've been talking with, they said too much of it at this point is beyond salvaging. And
Yeah, I wish to solve it, like you say, and maintain the historic look and old since President Grace was there. Love to have it. But during the 2.5 years I was there, like I said, we did the maintenance on it. But every time since I was there, it's like, Joe, you're gonna have to replace that roof soon.
Okay.
That's what I got when I okay.
Okay.
So do I want to spend that amount of money to replace it? I don't. But it seems now that I have to, since residents are living underneath that roof.
are you actually experiencing roof leaks at this time?
Yeah, in one spot.
Okay. Yeah, I can see from some of the photos that it looks like the gutter is pulled away.
Yeah, that particular spot is where the leaking is going into the rooms.
We have on other occasions approved a simulated slate that is not a rubber or a plastic product, but it's I guess it's closer to a rubber product, but we have approved that as a slate replacement, and its lifespan is considerably longer than anything that's shingle based.
Yeah.
It's not as expensive as slate itself. It's very durable, but it has a texture that mimics slate almost exactly. And we have approved that in the past. It usually is something that people don't look into because the shingle base is easier to go after. But given the length of service that you're expecting to get out of it, it may merit looking at something besides.
Yeah.
So I just kind of throw that out there.
Sure.
That there are other products besides an asphalt shingle that may serve your purpose.
Yeah. This is the kind of, I don't know if you can see it from here, but this is the kind of material that the subcontractor, the most like it. It looks like a slate that goes like sideways, you were saying, I'm not sure. The vision is good enough to see from that far, but this is what we're, something along that way.
Yeah, we would not, we would not approve this.
You will not?
No, this is not really the right idea. Have you spoken to any other contractors or gotten any quotes
Yeah,
from
yeah,
any?
3 of them.
Okay,
3 of them by bids. So
Okay.
we did that. So anything you can advise me of what you recommend for a shingle or
sure.
a rooftop, that's, I'm hoping to get out of this meeting.
Sure, of course. I guess I got a minute just reading over this letter here. It's kind of funny the way it's phrased, and I mean, the slate currently on the roof are estimated to have been installed between 1900 and 1920. Well, you know, if it was regularly maintained, I would think most of it probably was installed within the past 10, 15 years or so. So, you know, yeah, there's going to be a range of different age slates. And again, you know, I do believe if the maintenance wasn't kept up with, that you might have too many slates at this point that might need to be repaired or replaced. And then, yeah, you're kind of stuck. But, you know, and, you know, looking at this picture, I do see one area of concern that you mentioned where the gutter pulled away, and that's, you know, I can see that area really needs some work.
Yeah.
Rubber sleeves.
I'm not at all a roof expert by any means, but I do own 2 buildings with slate roofs, and I know a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Because you have to.
Yes, yeah, when you own a building with slate roofs, you become a little bit of an expert.
Yes.
So, generally, I see from this one contractor's note, they mentioned GAF slate line. You know, that's usually 99% of the time, that's what we recommend to use, only because the appearance of it blends in very well with other slate roofs that are nearby.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a very simple looking product. I think there's another manufacturer out there that makes a similar product, and I just don't remember what it is off the top of my head. Craig, I don't remember. I'd be interested to see the one you mentioned. I don't remember.
It's on the, no, it used to be Bethlehem Sporting, but not Sporting Goods, but across the street, the firehouse.
Which one? Because maybe, you know, maybe we could just look up
What's
the
the
product.
what's the name of that place?
It's called Composites.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly.
It's
To
made
the
from
gas
like
station.
recycled tires or
I
something.
don't know what it's made from. I was looking it up as you guys were talking about it.
We
Okay.
approved it about 10 to 15 years ago.
So that must have been a little bit before I stepped on board.
Yeah, I think it may have been.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you approve any roofs around the neighborhood where we on Prospect and?
You know, most of the
Okay.
roofing work we've had come before us has been in South Bethlehem, not so much along
Yeah.
Prospect.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You know, and so many of the houses along there are slate and continue to be slate. You know, except for the newer ones that that aren't really contributing. So, you know, I mean, it's not really, you know, we're in favor of using slate line. It's just one of those things where, oh, you sure you can't maintain what you have anymore? And I mean, you sure about that?
Yeah. I mean, they're
Okay.
very thin. I should have brought maybe a piece
Okay.
to show you.
Okay, but in other words, like,
Razor thin.
I mean, you would say that, like, I don't know, 50, 60% of the roof is really, you know, the slate is really worn out.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I own a slate roof on the west side, right down the street from Holy Family Manor. And we maintain our roof
That is a really nice.
every year. Paul Wright does a great job, but I'm sure there are lots of roofers that do a great job maintaining and pulling, like the slip slates. And there's a couple pictures here that don't look like they have like slip slates. There's several that have obviously lots of damage. But it seems like they could possibly, maybe finding someone to be able to pull slates and replace the slates as you need them. I mean, that's how slate roofs get repaired. Might be beneficial. And then you don't have to replace the whole roof. I mean, what part of the roof are you replacing? Because is there some that's already asphalt? Or is it all slate, all?
I believe it's
The
also-
Grace Mansion one that we're talking about is all slate.
It's
And that's the one they want to put on shingle.
it's this one, right?
Yes.
Let me ask you this question. When were you planning to have this work done now that we're about to hit deep winter? When are you planning to have this work done?
We're trying to put something on that corner, just so it lasts the winter. Tell me what is it? Explain to me. You're gonna put.
It's a waterproof sheeting. He was talking to me on the phone today about it. It's I don't remember the name he said, but it's a waterproof sheeting that he would put underneath it.
Oh, you mean just to get you through the winter?
Just to get through the winter, right?
Exactly. So,
Okay.
so what are you looking to do it in April?
One of the names is Embarrass Shake.
Oh, okay, all right. You know what, maybe we could give them a couple of different product options.
Yeah.
And generally for this kind of work, we want to see, well, you don't have to necessarily come back, but, if you could bring a sample to the building department that Jeffrey and myself could look over and approve. I think personally, I would, if you have a little bit of time, I would love it if you could just talk to somebody who does slate repair, even talk to a few people and just, compare budget wise. Hey, if we want to just maintain what we have here, how many slates are you looking at? I mean, look, you own a big facility and you got a lot of maintenance stuff you got to take care of. I know it's a religious institution type budget and all that, but I think we'd all feel pretty good if you at least consider the option to maintain what you have.
Okay, we'll start with that and see what we can. But if the answer is no, it's like it's a bit late. We need to change it. So I'm hoping that maybe I can get some information from you to tell me, hey, what's the best option to
Sure.
do or to go by?
Sure, and
The next step, so to say.
yeah. So I'm going to venture a motion on this for the property at, it's really 1200 Spring Street, that you come back to us with, just having explored an option for repair and maintenance, so you could at least compare a budget for that and make an informed decision. If you decide to go with an asphalt shingle product, typically we will approve a GAF slate line. There's some other products that we had mentioned here tonight that I think would also, be even more appropriate because they look so much more like slate. In addition, keep in mind that if you do asphalt shingle replacement, just as Jeffrey mentioned, you're going to be dealing with installing ice and water shield and underlayments. I don't know what kind of, decking is underneath all that slate. I mean, some of it, a lot of it might be rotted. It might be sitting on furring. I don't know. I've seen all kinds of things. And you're going to be looking, I think either way, no matter what you do, it looks like you're looking at replacing flashing. We want you to maintain the step flashing at chimneys and so on. So there you have it. Really, two options. It's not like we're against going with the asphalt shingle, but we just think for both your good and for the historic preservation part, we would love to see just explore a budget for maintenance. So it's kind of a long-winded motion. If anyone can second it, that'd be great.
I'll second it. But I'll also tell you that on the south side of Bethlehem, there are a lot of homes with slate roofs. And there are slate contractors that work slate. You probably know all this. But the slate will outlive some of the best asphalt shingle that's out there. It's most people have it repaired, have it fixed, replacing so many slates. You go around the south side, you can see some new slates here and there where they may have been broken or there was a leak. But I'd seriously think about it because that slate will outlast all of us, and the asphalt won't.
Yeah. So that sounds like a second.
Yes, that's a second.
Okay. All right. Let's put it to vote. Roger Hudak.
Aye.
Craig Evans.
Aye.
I vote aye. Mike Simonson. Desiree Strasser.
Aye.
Chaz Patrick.
Aye.
Okay. So actually, in a way, I think that was sort of a motion to table. The way it sounded, it was.
What I have in front of you would not qualify for something we would send to council.
Right.
It's a
Right.
recommendation at the table with request for
Right.
further
Right. So I'm sorry, I misstated that, but I don't think it changes how we voted. It was really a motion to table for you to come back with additional information.
About what the outcome is going to be.
Well, so really just to look into the concept of repair
Yeah,
versus
replace.
replace. And on a side note, I was just wondering if I could, as a neighbor who lives just down the street, I pass the front of your building every day.
Oh, okay.
And, this picture doesn't do it justice, and I guess exterior lighting is not generally something we comment on, but it's blindingly bright, the new lamps you put in at the
ones you put in?
entrance.
Yeah, they're getting switched to the 4K lights.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We're having problems
Well, he
getting
said
them.
this, They put it on, and I said the same thing. I told him, they're too bright.
Yeah, and color temperature is everything. The problem with the great thing with LEDs is you get so much brightness with little energy. The bad news is, it's blinding sometimes, and
We're
the
changing
color.
those.
Okay,
We're changing the whole building into LED and
okay.
going back and forth with lighting and so forth.
And I think if you go with a warmer color temperature, you'll be way ahead. Jeffrey, you always have a recommendation on that.
We recommend 4,000. We typically recommend
3,000. So
For the street.
yeah,
For any exterior light, we usually recommend a 3,000 Kelvin.
yeah. So it could be tricky.
More on the yellow side.
This
or
is
yellow
on the
than 3,000.
prospect side, but
No, he's
yeah,
stuck in the color of the light. Oh,
Yeah, more on the warmer side. Yep.
on the warmer side. Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming by tonight.
Thank you.
Here's your brochure.
Here's your sample here.
And I guess that brings us to our final applicant of the evening.
Or gentleman who's had to sit there and wait for us.
Yes, and thank you so much for your patience. We're up to now 210, 212 East 3rd Street, it looks like.
yes.
Okay. And you're Scott, who has met with us sometime back.
Yeah,
right?
October, the October
Okay.
meeting, yes.
Is a 5-minute break at this point a good idea, Jeffrey? Or anybody need?
No.
Yeah,
Let's just do
maybe
it.
we'll just take a minute to
Okay, that's fine.
catch your breath.
There it is.
In fact, I'll just run down the hall.
is very close.
I'm going especially like starting at 5 o'clock. But which I think is reasonable. We still get out at a decent time.
Yeah. That slate business is a nightmare. I mean, it'll last forever if you take care of it, but you gotta. I used to have down the when I lived down on 5th Street. Still live on 5th Street, but the house, a different house that I grew up in. We had a guy that would check that every year.
Yeah.
You know, and if you do that, you don't develop the leaks. But good slate guys are hard to come by these
Yeah,
days.
they're getting
And these
harder
roofing
to come
companies
by.
want the business. What we're pricing for you, yeah, with crap. That'll last.
I gotta admit, I mean, it was hard not to wonder, if you make your business installing asphalt shingles, why would you tell somebody to save their slate roof?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear
The,
there's some.
Salamoni's place is where I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
That building has a slate alternative. I think it's rubber based,
Okay.
and it has it's molded, and it has rough edges like slate,
Yeah.
split slate, and it has a
Well,
texture to it.
I guess what's interesting though is, our Secretary of Interior guidelines say that when we replace an existing material, that it should be differentiated so that it's really clear that it was a replacement and not something to look like what was,
So it was there.
right?
Yeah.
So I, if you put something on that's like, it looks just like slate, but it isn't really slate, I think it kind of goes against the standards, right, Jeffrey?
Well,
Does it last as long as slate?
yeah, well, who knows?
That's the. And you think of all the churches on the south side, they're all slate roofs. And there are good slate guys out there.
Yeah,
You know.
there are. We have a couple in our neighborhood that are just beautiful slate roofs.
Yep.
Sorry. Okay, all right. I guess we're ready to finish up the evening.
Alrighty.
Well, thank you again, Scott, for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you.
Indeed.
Two 10 to 212 East 3rd Street. This structure is a 2-story, 3-bay, detached brick masonry building with a flat roof. The building portion facing East 3rd Street was originally constructed in circa 1900 as an appliance and hardware store, but later served as a tavern under various ownership. The upper floor level has 1/1 double-hung windows, while the original entry-level storefront has been altered to include a central recessed entrance flanked on either side by modified window openings, each with side-by-side sliding windows. During the mid-20th century, the storefront received a cladding of form stone which is regionally referred to by the brand name Permastone, a type of pigmented stucco shaped to imitate the appearance of stone masonry. The east facade was clad in vinyl siding sometime during the mid to late 20th century. I think Mr. Evans clarified it was probably early 21st century based on, I think, an application. Masonry and wood frame rear additions connect this structure to the two-story brick masonry residential building that faces Mechanic Street. Many architectural features have been lost over time, so it can no longer be identified by a single defining style. Proposed alterations. It is proposed to remove the siding on the east facade and replace with a thin brick veneer, and also to remove the permastone on the north facade or cover it over with a thin brick veneer. The brick veneer is to closely match the color and pattern of the existing brick wall at the west facade. It is also proposed to restore the glass storefronts on the north facade, to replace the 3 double-hung windows and add faux shutters. It is also proposed to replace downspouts at the replace the downspout at the northwest corner with a square aluminum downspout. The applicant intends to bring along material samples to the meeting. Guideline citations used for my assessment include the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 that I cited in several of tonight's projects, the Bethlehem ordinance that created the district, as well as the commission guidelines for storefronts. My evaluation and recommendations. During the presentation to HCC on October the 18th, 2021, the applicant proposed to paint the existing formstone cladding at the front north facade, as well as the vinyl siding at the east side facade in a dark red color, to modify the existing windows at the entry-level front facade, and to infill the recessed entry flush with the front facade before installing a new storefront entrance door. At that time, HCC noticed various concerns about the applicant's proposal and unanimously tabled any decision to determine appropriateness of the proposed work, encouraging the applicant to cooperate with a licensed design professional experienced with historic structures before returning for a subsequent review of any rehabilitation proposal that corresponds with the expressed concerns. The current application represents the request for a subsequent review and indicates the applicant's intent to replace inappropriate vinyl siding at the side or the east facade with brick veneer that matches color and pattern of the existing brick on the other side, the west facade. Such a proposal is appropriate, pending HCC acceptance of a brick sample submittal. I wasn't sure if that was included for
Yes,
today.
I submitted the specs, but I also have a sample there.
Sure, thank you. So we need to take a look at those bricks, and it might be because he's matching existing, it might need to also have a supplemental field verification by
Okay.
one or more people.
So
I'll
good,
let
and I can comment on that later because
Sure.
I have a ton of samples and second opinions are great because I could be colorblind.
Oh, no, that's
But-
okay.
yeah,
It,
so-
it depends on how they want to formulate the resolution, sure. Important is not simply the color rendition, but the bond pattern, so the brick pattern itself. We don't want to introduce yet a new
Absolutely.
style. And just as important as the brick color is the joint,
Mortar.
the mortar joints. Similarly, the proposal to remove the inappropriate formstone siding at the north facade and replace with brick veneer is also appropriate, pending those same
Sure.
issues that I cited previously. The application also indicates the intent to replace the recessed entrance with a new full glazed storefront entrance door and a glazed transom. The replacement door measures 84 inches tall by 36 inches wide, while the transom measures 33 inches tall and 36 inches wide. The material of the door and the transom is anodized aluminum in a dark bronze color. The proposed replacement door is appropriate as presented. We've approved many of these types of doors throughout the district. There was mention of a potential sample or specification. Did you have that as
The
well?
specification for the door was submitted. I imagine that's
Okay.
where you probably got the statistics.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
So I'll let them assess that. But typically, they might ask you to go back to the fabricator for a bit more detail, we'll see how they formulate the
Okay.
resolution. For me, more than the product is the clarification if the existing recess condition remains, or if the new proposal includes that the new door will be flush with the front facade. And you can clarify that
Okay.
during the discussion. The accompanying project narrative also describes the intent to replace the existing downspout at the northwest corner with a new square aluminum downspout. Officially, HCC is not commissioned to assess downspouts, but as we've heard previously tonight, they typically recommend half round gutters and round downspouts. So I'll let them discuss that issue with you. It's possible that you're feeding it into a boot that has to be square. I don't know those kind of details.
Okay.
But if so, that would be kind of an exception to the rule, and I just wanted you to be aware of that. The project narrative also mentions the applicant's intent to restore the glass storefront on the north facade. The existing entry-level windows are inappropriate, so the applicant's intent to modify the openings is encouraged. Typically with new windows, we ask for scale drawings, and that was one reason why I think HEC requested or suggested assistance from a licensed professional. So they might, on concept, accept this, but they might also request ultimately measure drawings to understand how much, window, glass, wall, all those kind of things work together.
Okay.
But I think pretty much, I'm not going to say it on record, or not in written record, I'm going to say it. I think pretty much any change to those windows is going to be an improvement. So,
Any change to the building, I think, yes.
Similarly, the narrative also mentions the intent to replace the 3 double-hung windows on the second floor and add faux shutters at the upper floor level. However, I didn't see any, similar to the door, however, I didn't see any kind of product fabricator information, materials, all those kind of things.
That's still, I guess you could say, pending. And I would say we're going to replace the windows, but the trimming to match would go, not actually the windows like in the storefront.
I misunderstood that.
Yes,
then.
yeah. So we're not going to go that far. As far as the shutters, I don't think there's even enough room to do a nice shutter. I know some of the buildings on the street have a nice shutter, gives it that colonial look with brick. I would like to do, but I don't think there's enough room to make it look.
Well, then that would actually support my next statement. I go on to say that first, faux shutters are not allowed. If they are going to be shutters, they need to be true shutters that operate.
I don't think true shutters will fit.
And I also wanted you to be aware that for upper level windows on mixed use structures in the district, we don't have any examples of shutters. Individual residential buildings where they're purely residential, we do have a few of those examples, but yours is commercial downstairs and residential upstairs. And during the period of our district, we don't have shutters. So I'm glad to hear that you're
we're
stepping
going
away
to scrap.
from the
That was
concept
just
of
more an
shutters.
idea.
Okay. As with previous projects, the applicant should be aware that reflective, tinted, or color glazing for windows and doors is not appropriate. The application also notes the intent to install storm windows and storm doors. I think that was listed in the description, but I couldn't find any product information.
Yeah, no,
or indication of where a storm door or storm windows were going to go.
No, it would simply be a glass door, retail front door.
So the same door that you provided the specifications
Yes,
to?
that'll be it. No storm door
Okay.
like in a house now.
Okay.
Not at all.
And no storm windows on the upper windows?
No.
Okay. So that was maybe perhaps just my misunderstanding.
Yes.
The remaining application includes several pages dedicated to white PVC trim pieces. However, the locations of the trim are not provided. And now I think I understand those are perhaps trim pieces intended for the windows you just described.
Yes.
So rather than replacement windows, you're because you're introducing a brick veneer, you need to trim out the windows.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, and a nice trim.
The notations on the application all indicate signage, lighting, and the brick retaining wall at the west facade with the front gate will be considered at a subsequent meeting, so we don't need to discuss those tonight. Again, the issue with the windows specifically, Measure drawings we really do need for a record,
Okay.
For project records. I don't know. We can't make recommendations, but there are several professionals in the area that could help you
Right.
with
And
that.
design professional is the title, because I had a hard time between the last two meetings, but what would or architect, design architect?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically someone who's familiar with historic properties.
Okay.
Because what we have in front of us, it's not to discount your efforts, but they're computer generated images,
Mhm.
but they don't provide us the detail we're looking for or the dimensions we're looking for as
Okay.
well that we typically see. And then I know last time we discussed we encouraged you to consider the remaining building components that are also visible from the public right of way. You noted that could be a future phase. I just wanted to mention that any future work on those other facades or other parts of the building would also need measured drawings to go with them.
You mean going back to Mechanic Street or?
Correct. Any of
Okay.
you mentioned that that's kind of a future work phase.
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to make sure that tradition of or desire for measured drawings would replicate itself as you
Okay.
move forward with the project.
Okay.
And with that, Mr. Later, I'm finished with my assessment.
Is a motion required on this one tonight too?
No, the motion to table came several months ago, and this has a new cover, and the applicant is presenting a much different project. So it was planning's understanding that this is really an independent application that theoretically could be tabled, denied, or approved. You have
Okay.
all three options tonight.
And were you saying that we had approved the retaining wall and the gate, or did I?
No, the applicant specifically states that that will come at a later phase.
Okay.
So it's depicted, but we don't need to discuss it tonight.
Okay,
Neither do we need to discuss lighting or signage.
okay,
They're depicted on one of the drawings, but I think there's a written portion of the narrative that states that even though they're depicted, he's not in a position to discuss this in any kind of detail at this point.
Tonight's objective, I would like the brick veneer to be discussed and hopefully be approved, to at least get started on that. And then as we move to the front, the door and the windows. And so if there's further questions or things needed, absolutely. But if we can at best do stuff in pieces, because if you recall the last time I was here, I had the idea of just painting it to match a red, and I'm kind of glad. I mean, it's going to cost more, but the sample of the brick that I have, I think I received 7 samples, because when you look online, the color can be off, and I lined them up, and I asked a couple people, but I would be more than happy to meet with anyone from the commission to go out and match. But this is almost an exact match. And then as far as the mortar, the company, I don't know if anyone has ever heard of it, Brickit. If you go online, it's amazing what this looks like. I mean, to call this veneer, this looks like real brick when it's done. I mean, a lot of restaurants use it on the interiors, and I mean, and the way you could do the mortar. So this is the product that I researched after the last meeting, and I'm glad I did, because even though it'll cost more, it'll create such a better look for the building and make it look historic and so forth. So that's and I can hand the sample if you want, but it comes in strips that you put on the wall.
yeah.
Now, this is to go on the side that is currently has siding on it
And the front, yes.
and the front. Okay.
All the siding. My goal is to have the whole building brick, and it all is. But through the years, it's different colors, different fades, has been repointed how many times. So that's the product, and like over the last 2 months, I would order samples from the company and line them up and look at the.
Well, typically, even, by the way, even full thickness brick is often called brick veneer.
It is?
and
Okay.
it doesn't have anything to do with the thickness of it. And you want to also just be sure that brick as a material has different ratings for exposure and weathering, and some are more absorptive than others. So that's one thing to consider. And we've often approved a thin brick like this. So it could be a great product. I mean, personally, for a historic district, I would say something that is this opaque. Like when something is this continuous in color, I would say it's more of a modern look.
Okay.
But there, as you know, there's a lot
Well,
available
my
out
reasoning
there.
was to match the existing brick, which is interior, and it has not been weathered as much.
Mhm.
So that's why, because if the way the building is, the Seatown supermarket, it's open, okay, and that's the side that gets a beating from the weather. And if you go back towards Mechanic Street, you see that with the bricks. The brick that's on the interior, because the building's shaped like an L, I don't think it gets any. I mean, it doesn't look it's aged at all. I mean, there's some tint to it, a little bit lighter up top, probably because the sun has been hitting it for X amount of years. But I understand what you're saying, and they do make samples that have different colors. I think that would stand out though in my objective of trying to match the existing brick.
So all I was going to say is, maybe you might want to look at something, there's so much brick in South Bethlehem. Maybe you might want to look at something that's, kind of closer in color and texture to, what we typically see in the neighborhood.
Okay, but it might not match the rest of the building. Is that okay?
It could be. I tell you, I gotta be honest. From looking at what you presented so far, I'm still kind of foggy on what you're doing where. And I think going back to Jeffrey's point about getting a design professional involved, that could help you put together some drawings to make it more clear what you're proposing to do. But if you're looking for our opinion on using a thin brick like that, it could be a good choice. You'll also want to look at the mortar, because there's a lot of different colors available for mortar, and I would say get something that is maybe again closer to what's in our neighborhood, and not something that make sure the contractor doesn't just put in gray that looks like utility. Oftentimes you'll see the mortar could be reddish or could be buff color, but I would say in conjunction, consider them both together.
Okay. Yes.
What else were you looking for tonight?
Well, ideally approval to start the brick where we can rip off the siding, start the front, and then the door and windows in the front, where the door now is recessed, as we said, but I want to move it out to the street. That was one of the questions that there was. I want to make that flush to the street, because right now when you walk into the building, it's dark. It's like you're walking in a tunnel. I just want to make it more open and bright. And then the windows for the existing windows, when you look at the existing building, you can tell how they were filled in and patched up and then made shorter. I'd like to make it bigger, which would go in conjunction with the facade work. So that would be ideal, just to have the approval on that. I mean, subject to, I can come back with specifications. If I do have to get the design professional, hopefully we can turn that around within a month or two. I don't know how long it would take.
Well, yeah, and I mean, all I was going to say in addition is, if you're going to go through the expense of finding a good consultant design professional for you, I mean, you'd probably want to pull this all together and have somebody really guide you on just the right way to do all of this. I think can really help you bring this project to the next level.
Okay.
Did you give us any information on the windows you're using? I didn't see it in the package.
There were specifications on the glass. Yes, it should have been there. The Syracuse company is the header.
But you're using existing frames and just replacing the glass?
No, we have to reframe it, and that's where the because it's just the way it is. There's no way we could.
They're not. They're fixed things.
Oh,
It's not, as if I understand it correctly, that it's like a shop window. It's not a.
okay.
It's not a sack.
Okay, is that right? They're to be fixed windows when you replace them?
Yes, there. If you, I don't know if you have it in the.
I see this here about the tempered glass, but it just doesn't really tell me what the design
I have a
intention is.
picture of it currently, and
In
I don't know
fact,
if
when
you
I saw
could.
this typical breakage pattern, I thought maybe that was like stained glass.
That's what I thought too. That's what I thought too.
What they did. This is it right now. The
Yeah,
whole thing. I want to replace that whole thing with glass.
that's great.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I want.
Yep, we're all for that.
But I think what we need to know is the whole system. So it's not just the glass. There's a frame, and
Okay.
Maybe, probably, if you're talking to somebody who's providing you with an entrance door, they could also do those windows for you, because that's what we call storefront.
Right. And that's what I'm looking for, a brighter, welcoming storefront. Because right now, I think last time I had mentioned, I'm talking to a store, like a caterer for meat, cheese, and so forth. And I explained to them, and they know too in business. I mean, it has to be welcoming, and that's brightness, and that's my whole
Sure.
goal, to make it look bright, to make it look historic, to make it match the neighborhood.
Now, what I would say might not be so appropriate is the door you're showing in your picture. It looks like it's clear anodized, and maybe that finish is not the best choice for everything else you're doing.
That would be too modern, you think? That would.
Well, so if you put in new storefront windows on either side of the door,
Mhm.
you're probably going to want that frame to match.
Okay.
And it could work. I mean, maybe for everything else you're doing, with all the dark colors, maybe you want to go with a painted storefront frame because you can have a color selection with it.
Okay.
So again, I think all of this goes back to, maybe the best thing for you to do is, hire that design professional and really have someone who helps you pull this all together. So you got it all worked out. And next time we meet with you, you can just fly through this and we'll all be overwhelmed by how great.
Okay. No, yeah, and I appreciate everyone's patience because I'm learning as I go too. This is my first big project, so but I'm excited for it. Like I said,
Here's something that may help you too. This is for you to keep. That is the guidelines to storefronts
Oh, great. Okay.
from the Bethlehem. If you want to read through that, and it might give you, or whoever you're going to work with, your design professional or whatever, just an idea of kind of what we're looking for. You know what I mean? Is in some ideas.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'll try to find somebody local that's been here before, so they.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a number of people right here in town who would be a great resource for this, and they'll get you in the right direction. And chances are, if you find,
Ultimately, it'll cost you less.
and chances are they'll be very familiar with.
Ultimately, it will cost you less.
It'll
cost you less
Oh.
in the long run.
Yeah.
And I mean, just as a side comment, it's good to get all this information, but usually like individual parts and pieces, like some of this is a little confusing what it is we're actually looking at. So I see there's all these pages here about PVC trim and ordering information and prices, and it's all, I would say most of this is information that's not really applicable for what we need to talk about.
Okay.
The glass specs, it's important information, but the tempering process, it's not really relevant to the things that we do here. Material safety data sheet, same thing. So I mean, again, I think if you find the right professional to help you with this, this will be a lot easier to go through.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. That's. I'll definitely stay on it.
I have a question. What is the Aging Moon going to be?
The Aging Moon is a catering for parties or social events that caters to meat and cheese.
Okay.
It's because since I acquired this building, I have been thinking of what is a good retail front that I can have there. And ironically, I'm also, in addition to being an attorney, I'm a professor at Moravian College, and I had a student come to me after she graduated asking to form a company for her catering business. And I started talking to her, and I started learning that the businesses like that, there's a big demand for people to cater parties. And and I told her, I said, listen, I might have a storefront. That's I started talking to her parents because she's younger, and she's excited for it. And the insight. So that if you look it up online, I mean, she has a large presence on the internet. Aging Moon. Cool. And she learned all her skills from Wegmans. She worked at Wegmans since she was 16. For 10 years. Yeah, in the cheese department, and she has a passion for it. So that's where I think this could succeed.
Yeah,
I think it will go good with the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lehigh and
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So chances are you're also going to need a design professional just to guide you on any interior improvements, because there's so much specific to hoods and sinks and all the other good things that go with a food establishment.
Now, silly question, but for interior, I don't have to come to this commission, do I?
No.
Okay, that's just the codes and
Me,
zoning.
yeah.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Would you? So is the second floor residential?
Yes.
Would you keep it residential, or would you keep it like a catering area eventually?
No, I would keep it residential because the building's big. I mean, I would think that whole first floor, it doesn't go back all the way to Mechanic Street, but it's close to 2,000 square feet. I mean, it's long.
Okay.
And the
It is
apartment
long.
upstairs is too. I mean, this is probably more than she needs. And the good thing is when you talked about hoods and ovens, she's not going to need that. She just needs refrigeration and plumbing and sinks. So which is good for insurance and there won't be anything open flame.
But she's not preparing anything. It's just meats and cheeses, cutting
Preparing
and
that,
slicing.
but not cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not
Yeah,
cooking.
yeah. She's just slicing and
That's it, and preparing everything nice. And like I
Right,
said, if you have a moment to look on the web, you'll see everything that she displays. So yeah, but the second floor will stay residential. They've been there apparently 30 or 40 years. So if I told them they had to get out, they would probably they would pass out. So but yeah,
that's
but
one apartment upstairs.
yeah,
The whole
yeah,
thing is
it's
one.
big. Yeah,
Yeah, that's big.
it's really big. I mean, it's just it's like a big hallway though. It's awkward.
It's just long and thin.
I
Yeah.
think somebody's really got to table this. Yeah.
I move that we table this until the cohesive approach has come to us with details on material components, cut sheets, product samples, and clarification of things like lighting and signage and so on.
All right. Any seconds on that?
I'll second.
And any further discussion?
Aye.
And so you got some feedback. And,
Right.
you
No,
know,
it's good.
I think it could be a great project. So
Yeah,
thanks
really.
Thanks for your efforts.
Yeah, with everything going on. I mean,
But one formality. Let's put this to a vote. Roger Hudak,
Aye.
Craig Evans.
Aye.
I vote aye. Mike Simonson.
Aye.
And Desiree Strasser.
Yep, aye.
Chaz
Aye.
Patrick. Okay, so motion carries to table. And with that,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
No, we got to approve the minute.
we do
Approve
have
the
to- we
minutes.
do have to
I'm sorry,
approve the
apologize.
minutes.
Got
Yes.
ahead of myself.
Uh,
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We wish to welcome Desiree. Thank you for joining our commission. We certainly need more people, and certainly more people from West Bethlehem is great too. The only other formality that, usually the first meeting of the year.
This is not the first. We discussed it before you got here. This
You
is
did. What was the
This
discussion?
is the 12th meeting of last year.
Okay,
So reorganization will be
Okay.
at next meeting,
okay.
if that's where you were going.
That's where I was going. So, right, we talked about, usually we vote for, who will serve as chair, vice chair, and so on. That will be at the following meeting.
Yes.
So, okay, is any new business?
Holiday schedule. Third Monday. Fourth Monday.
Okay,
We did get a schedule from planning office. which is revised.
Yeah.
That means we reconvene on the 24th of January,
okay,
not the 17th. That's what.
okay, good to know.
Remind everyone again that this thing happens in February.
Right,
Fourth Monday.
okay. And we're back to our 6 o'clock timeframe,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, so again, I apologize, everyone. I actually
It's
had
okay,
it
we
marked.
picked up the slack.
I had marked
Great
on my
job, Chuck.
calendar, and there you go.
We had you covered.
You had me covered. Yeah. Okay. So, with that, good night, everyone.
Let's boogie.
Good night. Have a good night.
Good night.
Maybe Mike's.
Two.